Chapter 12:13. Princess Sisai did not want to build a kingdom in this mountain and become a queen. She had no interest in these things. The reason why she subdued all the soldiers and took them in as sword slaves was to stop this farce that would not end until one side was dead. After she had finished showing off her power, she did not care about the others anymore. She arrogantly returned to the grimoire world, leaving behind millions of soldiers from the eastern and western camps. All of them stared at her in confusion, not knowing what to do next. Fallen Beauty was also unwilling to face this kind of mess. She yawned and went back to her beauty sleep. Luckily, there was still Yu Yang. Otherwise, the soldiers in the storm fort would cry themselves to death, turning into millions of abandoned women who would drown this land with their tears. Seeing that Yu Yang was also preparing to leave, no matter if it was the people from the eastern camp or the western camp, all the marshals, generals, and rankers who were ranked higher all gathered around him. They all stared at him, staring at each other, not daring to breathe loudly as they waited for Yu Yang to speak. Yu Yang secretly lamented that he was too slow. If it wasn't for God slaying and the others, he wouldn't have been willing to take on this mess. Why are you looking at me? Do you still not believe this is the truth? Yu Yang did not stand on ceremony. He took out the ancient hatred sword, Candle Knight Divine Pearl, Snow Gulp Divine Blade, and other weapons casually. His movements were incomparably elegant, but he did not know that the marshals and generals' faces had already turned pale. Even my lord Deicide fell in the gods' war. Marshal Chong Er was dispirited and powerlessly sat on the ruins of the storm fort. He felt endless fatigue and pressure assaulting his body. His originally high morale could not be raised at all. He could not help but mutter to himself, "We have always been fighting for our lord. What should we do? What should we do now? What is going on? How could the 8 great gods all fall in the gods' war? This is too unbelievable." He did not want to believe this was the truth. But the truth was right in front of him. He could not doubt it. The divine weapons had broken free from the contract, and they were all in the hands of Titan Yu. This proved that the 8 great divine masters had all fallen. Otherwise, it would not have been like this. Ancient Bones, all evil, and the other marshals of the western camp were now even more terrified. This was because they discovered that the divine item that belonged to Black Day, the Candlelight God Pearl, had already recognized Titan Mountain as its master. If Black Day hadn't died, the Night Candle Divine Pearl would never have chosen a new master like this. Could it be that the 8 great god masters were all killed by this Titan Yu and that sword goddess just now? For a moment, all the marshals and generals began to make their own plans. It was a fait accompli, so there was no point in hesitating. So be it a sword slave. Pledging allegiance to the new lord was much better than clinging to the fallen 8 great divine masters. Moreover, the sooner he pledged allegiance, the better. The merit of the number one's protection couldn't be snatched away by others. Greetings, Lord Titan. Ancient Bones and 10,000 fiends exchanged glances and knelt down almost at the same time. They had always been people who put their own interests above everything else. They were also the quickest to react to such matters. They could instantly let go of everything, abandon the past, and kneel down at the same time. They were competing to pledge their loyalty to Yu Yang and fight for the merit of the number one's protection. Their identity wasn't important. As long as they could be the first to receive the new lord's recognition, their future would be limitless. Wouldn't it be better to change to a new lord? This new lord could kill all 8 great divine masters. Moreover, this new lord had the support of an unbelievably powerful sword goddess. You, Griffin Marshal and the Golden Eagle General were extremely disdainful of Ancient Bones and 10,000 fiends, but they couldn't do anything about it. They were shameless. Even if they supported the new lord, they couldn't say anything wrong. In the face of absolute power, how laughable was resistance? Moreover, Titan Mountain was someone they were familiar with. Being accepted by him was better than submitting to an unfamiliar divine master. We have no intention of staying in Outer Mountain, nor do we have any intention of accepting any officials or subordinates. These things are all unnecessary. Yu Yang naturally wouldn't accept people like Ancient Bones and 10,000 Fiends as his subordinates. He didn't even look at them. Instead, he nodded towards Griffin Marshall and the others who were familiar with him. Deicide, Zhao Shi, Frostcold, and Qin Yun sacrificed their lives to seal the God Clock. Before they died, they entrusted everything to me. However, I will accept the divine equipment and grimoire. As for the various things in the God Kingdom, I don't care about them. You guys just watch and do whatever you want. Don't ask me. Black Day, Tenshou, and Shafeng were either killed by me or killed by others. They're all gone. Only Akaji survived after he shed his divine power. He passed the dragon swallowing spear to me. He and his wife decided to live in seclusion and live a carefree life. Therefore, it's not wrong to say that the 8 great divine masters have all fallen. The process of the God War is a little complicated. I can't explain it clearly in a short time. How about this? I've already mentioned it to the galactic pirates on the way here. Spotted Duck and Grasshopper, come out and tell everyone about it. I'll go back to sleep first. After finding Princess Sisai and thinking about Shui Wuxia, Yu Yang slipped back into the grimoire world as soon as he finished speaking. He didn't slow down too much. Before Spotted Duck and Grasshopper came to the storm fort, Yu Yang had told them part of it in Big Swan. He told them what he could tell the world. He didn't want to face Griffin Marshall and the others too much, and he didn't want to repeat it again and again. Therefore, Yu Yang gave this important task to the galactic pirates. The ones who were named by Yu Yang were Spotted Duck and Grasshopper. This time, they were finally awe-inspiring. With their heads held high and their faces flushed, they looked like a group of proud roosters. In fact, among the 8 great divine masters besides Akaji, Black Day also didn't die. However, Yang had already learned from Little One Li's telepathic transmission in the grimoire world that IKA and Future had already found traces of Black Day. They found that the Western Great Divine Master not only didn't hide, but also rushed towards the direction of the god-vanquishing secret realm. It seemed that he wanted to rescue the evil deities Wei Guang, who was in trouble. IKA and the Reaper Mantis sister both thought that this guy wanted to harm others without benefiting himself by releasing the evil deities and wanted to perish together with everyone. They were furious and immediately launched an attack on the Western Great Divine Master, Black Day. Ika's wishing cherub blew the horn, and the hatred talent also fully erupted, nailing an arrow of hatred to Black Day. Before the death of Black Day, it was impossible to get rid of him. With the cooperation of IKA and the Reaper Mantis sister, Black Day, who had lost a lot of divine power, defected artifact, and had nothing left, although he was not dead yet, Yang had already sentenced him to death in advance. Even as early as when Princess Sisai condensed the giant sword, she felt that Black Day would definitely die. So she said the sentence Black Day will die. How would the unlucky Black Day die? Yu Yang was not interested in knowing. He only knew this guy's death would definitely not be easy. The person who was nailed by Ika's arrow of hatred wanted to die comfortably? It was simply a joke. However, thinking about Black Day, the peerless hero of the West God Nation, who was ruthless and merciless all his life, killing people like flies, cruel and heartless, and finally dying in the hands of IKA and the Reaper Mantis sister in the future, it was also a kind of retribution. If Black Day met Red and Aman, if he was stared to death by Aman, it would not be too painful. If he met Duo and Jiang Ying, it would be even easier as long as he became flower fertilizer. If he met Sky Law and the Southern Demon King, it would be a little more tragic, but he might have to listen to a requiem before he was struck by lightning. Only dying in the hands of IKA and the future was the most unlucky. If he was not captured by the future, his soul would be cleansed by the divine power of the divine angel, or he would be bombarded by Ika's cannon and turned into a sieve. Black Day did not have too much remaining divine power, otherwise he would die for a longer time. Yu Yang thought about it and was a little worried for him. IKA and the 2 girls in the future wouldn't have killed Black Day for 3 days and 3 nights, would they? If that was the case, then it would be too tragic for Black Day. As for how Black Day died, besides Yu Yang and Princess Sisai, no one knew, and no one cared about this. Now, millions of people were sitting under the storm fortress, surrounding the incomparably huge sword, glaring at the enemies who had just fought to the death with them, while quietly waiting for the big-mouthed galactic pirates like Spotted Duck and Grasshopper to narrate. How could they miss the divine war, where all 8 almighty gods had fallen? Spotted Duck and Grasshopper, the galactic pirates, and the Revolutionary Army, proudly sat on Big Swan and floated in the sky. They did not dare to fly onto the incomparably huge sword and stand on the hilt like Princess Sisai. If they dared to offend him like this, the Griffin Marshal and the Golden Eagle General wouldn't even need to make a move. The Winged Eagle, Winged Tiger, and Flamingo would kick this group of brats 100 kilometers away and bury them alive. Every one of them had absolute respect for Princess Sisai, who had created the incomparably huge sword from the bottom of their hearts. This respect was not inferior to Marshal Chung, Ur's respect for deicides, and the Griffin Marshal's respect for Akages. After all, this incomparably huge sword, which had never been seen before in history, was right in front of them. Anyone who stood before it would feel small and insignificant, and they would automatically want to worship it. Speaking of which, after Jiwuri plotted with the former Western Lord Black Day, he sent a clone to the Starved Dog Ridge Valley camp behind the Storm Fortress and used the name of a prophet to lure us, the Galactic Pirates and the Revolutionary Army, into his trap. However, with our intelligence, we saw through his scheme with a single glance. Before Spotted Duck could finish his sentence, he was spurned by the millions of listeners. "You're so smart, so why did you fall for it like a dead dog? If not for Titan you guys would have exploded and played with your eggs long ago." There was an uproar below. Big Brother saw that the situation wasn't good, so he quickly changed his narrative style. "We were indeed fooled. Think about how sinister that Jiwuri is. He played millions of us in the palm of his hand without us noticing. Not only us, even the 8 great Lord Gods fell for it. You guys don't know this, but Jiwuri attracted a terrifyingly strong, evil deities from the heaven realm. He only used one finger to defeat Black Day, and even Jiwuri suffered a backlash. Divine power killing wave, Pa. The evil deities pierced through Jiwuri's body with one finger. You guys can't even imagine how strong that evil deities is. Not only that, Deicide's full-powered sword was actually blocked by that evil deity's one finger. The millions of listeners let out a wave of gasps. Deicide's full-powered sword was blocked by one finger? Wasn't this evil deity's too abnormal? That was what the normal soldiers thought, but in the ears of Marshal Chung, Marshal Griffin, Evil, and Ancient Bones, these super experts, they had a different reaction. That was, if this evil deities was so terrifying, then wouldn't Titan you and that sword goddess who killed the evil deities be even more terrifying? Titan you and that sword goddess didn't seem to be injured at all. Winged Eagle, Winged Tiger, and Blazing Bird tried their best to calm themselves. They already knew that Titan you was an inconceivable person. Legend has it that the 2 great gods Tai Yin and Bing Li invented the hovering mothership. For the past 10,000 years, including Deicide and Black Day, no one could change it. But this brat could change Swan Ship into Swan Ship, and he could even create hundreds of black Tortoise Guards God Destroyer battle avatars to control it. Hence, it was better to be calm. This brat couldn't be understood with common sense. Speaking of which, that evil deities angered Lord Titan. With a loud roar, he transformed into an impenetrable beast giant. At this time, even Lord Titan couldn't hurt him at all. What should we do next? The scariest thing is that this evil deities is only in his first form. There are still the final forms of demonification and deification, which are millions of times more powerful. How will Lord Titan deal with such a difficult battle strategy? Everyone, think about it. Let me keep you guessing first. Drink some water first. Big Brother, who had been speaking with exultation and saliva flying everywhere, finally felt a little thirsty. He decided to first replenish some water. However, his act of digging a hole for himself was unanimously despised by everyone. You dare to leave any suspense? This is the most important moment. and you're not saying anything? You want me to guess? Guess your sister. Countless chunks of soil and stones rained down on him. If Grasshopper wanted to build a building, those stones could probably be used to build a skyscraper. Yu Yang didn't know that the God's War that he had modified was so popular. If he had known that it would be like this, he would definitely charge for it or write it into a novel. The royalties wouldn't be too low. It's really a huge change. Princess Sisai, who had returned to the grimoire world, almost couldn't recognize that this was the place where she lived every day. She didn't really care about this change. What made her happy and worried was that Shui Wuxia had disappeared. If Shui Wuxia had woken up, it would be fine. She had been looking forward to it for a long time. She had always wanted to know how much Xuanyo, who had inherited the ice god's power, had improved and what new abilities she had comprehended in her sleep. However, Shui Wuxia had disappeared when she woke up. No one knew where she had gone. This way, even if Princess Sisai wanted to be a little jealous, she would be embarrassed. She looked at Yu Yang, who was sitting quietly in front of Shui Wuxia's bed. She suddenly reached out and hugged his head tightly, letting him rest his head on her towering breasts. She comforted him with a rare, gentle tone, as gentle as the wind. Don't worry, she has just returned to her grimoire world to meditate. It's not easy to condense a godhead. Duo and Jiang Ying also needed to meditate for a long time. I know you're worried that she has gone to challenge the evil deities Wei Guang. However, I can guarantee that the first thing she wants to see when she opens her eyes is you. If she wasn't forced to return to the grimoire world to meditate, she would definitely wait for you. Who knows how many things she wants to tell you? Why would she leave without saying goodbye? She didn't go out. She is still by our side. You just have to wait patiently. You have already waited for so long. Do you still care about this little bit of time? Yi Yang was very touched. He laid his head on the fragrant jade peak and smelled the fragrance of a virgin that cleared his mind. His chaotic mind gradually calmed down. Princess Sisai's body suddenly trembled. She raised her small fist proudly and shook it. Lying on my pillow like this, I've already let you take advantage of me. But you greedy bastard, you still dare to touch me? I have comforted you for nothing. Cough, this is a habit. A certain wolf quibbled. I'm also a habit. A certain tigress pretended to bite him. But in the next second, her lips were already sealed by him. Biting and kissing. Sometimes it was almost the same. Chapter 12:14. After Shui Wuxia woke up, at first glance, she wanted to see the bad boy who she missed even in his sleep. She knew that he missed her. He had called her thousands of times in front of her, hoping that she would wake up. She also hoped that she could open her eyes immediately, stare at him, and warn him not to be too mushy. But countless times, she wanted to give him a little response, even a little hint, but she couldn't do it. She didn't know how long she had been sleeping in the chaos. Maybe it had been thousands of years. Anyway, it was a long, long time. If she didn't know that he was always by her side, she would be very anxious. In this kind of eternal, peaceful sleep, Shui Wuxia felt that she had actually gained a lot. Although she couldn't talk and laugh beside him, she had increased her patience, comprehended silence, and surpassed the longing, the inexplicable cold divine power and divine sense that merged with her body were transformed and condensed bit by bit. There was no need for any thought to drive them. They automatically formed, or in other words, gave birth to a brand new divine power and divine sense that completely belonged to her. Many of them were knowledge and realms that she had sensed from his improvement in the past. There were also many new knowledge and realms that she had never imagined before. There were even some mysterious and profound things that she couldn't understand even if she exhausted all her wisdom. She didn't know when they had quietly stayed in the depths of her mind, waiting for her to explore, receive, assimilate, and integrate. There were some realms that Shui Wuxia felt that she had understood. But in the end, she found that it was just the beginning. What she had grasped was just the tip of the iceberg. There were also some realms that Shui Wuxia thought she still had a long way to go. But in the end, she found that she had successfully mastered them without knowing it. She just needed a chance to prove it. How she wanted to share her gains and joy with that bad boy. He would be happy for her. Maybe he would complain because she had been sleeping for too long. But more than that, he would be happy. That arrogant princess would probably drink 3 bowls of vinegar because of this. She hadn't seen her angry face for a long time. Thinking about it, she was looking forward to it. However, when she once again benefited from his improvement in the realm, when she couldn't wait to get out of the chaos. When she opened her eyes, the first thing she wanted to see was him. Shui Wuxia found that. He had inexplicably arrived at a different time and space. Everything inside seemed very familiar, as if she had seen it somewhere before. However, Shui Wuxia was sure that everything inside was completely strange. She had never seen it before. That feeling of familiarity was just a weird feeling. There were no flowers, grass, trees, mountains, rivers, or seas. There was nothing in the real world. There was only a mist that was even more chaotic than the primal chaos. If Shui Wuxia hadn't discovered that she was completely awake, she would have suspected that she was still in hibernation and still in the dream world. Perhaps the Book of Truth will have the answer. Shui Wuxia couldn't find a reasonable explanation no matter how she thought about it. She could only place her hope on the Book of Truth that had integrated with her growth and been promoted to a superb artifact. Her jade-like fingers gently turned the page. Unexpectedly, the Book of Truth that could reveal all the truths of the world did not react at all. He could even summon his own guardian beast, Storm Goddess General. It was completely ineffective. What's going on? Shui Wuxia was confused. Was there a place in the world where she couldn't summon her own guardian beast? What kind of place was that? Could it be the supreme, secret realm where the ancient great god lived? Impossible. She was clearly hibernating in his grimoire world. How could she suddenly run to some ancient great god's supreme, secret realm? There must be a mistake somewhere. Just when she was puzzled, she was surprised to find out. Behind her, there were 2 extremely cute little Lolas, blinking their big black eyes as they looked at her. Shui Wuxia had seen too many little Lolas. No matter if it was at home or outside, there were a lot of them, especially that bad boy who was a Lullicon. No matter where he went, there would be big and small Lolas following him. The greedy Schwanger, the obedient Nyonyo, the diligent Bing heir, the mischievous Bao heir. Which one of them wasn't cute? There were also the princesses of various countries and the little ones from various clans. Just the elite classes that Grandma Wu tongue-taught in the Ivy Academy had many big and small Lolas. Each one was more adorable than the other. However, Shui Wuxia could be sure. She had never seen the 2 little Lolas in front of her before. Moreover, she had never seen any little ones who looked so cute. Even though she wasn't a Lullicon, Shui Wuxia immediately liked the 2 little ones. Because they were really too cute. You too. Shui Wuxia had an illusion that she seemed to be very familiar with the 2 little ones. But she was sure that she had never seen them before. As for why she had such a feeling, she was very confused and couldn't explain it. Just as she was about to bend down to hug the 2 cute little Lolas, she saw them taking a step back at the same time, dodging the hug just in time. Then they looked at each other with their cute eyes. Their laughter was even crisper than a silver bell. It was like the sound of nature that resonated in one's soul. The 2 cute little Lolas held hands. Their small feet that were like white bamboo shoots took a step forward at the same time and ran far away in an instant. Shui Wuxia stretched out her hands. She realized that even if she wanted to move half a meter in this place, she would have to expend all her strength. It was impossible for her to catch up with the 2 little Lolas who were running with their feet. She could only watch their disappearing figures from afar, revealing a bitter smile of disbelief. Whose family did these 2 little Lolas belong to? Why did they appear here? Why did they give her a sense of familiarity? A lot of questions welled up in Shui Wuxia's mind. She thought about it in 100 ways, but couldn't find an answer. Following the direction where the 2 little Lolas disappeared, Shui Wuxia slowly moved forward. Here, every step seemed to take 10 days to half a month. Her movements were extremely slow. Fortunately, only her walking was restricted. If her words and actions were like this, she would definitely be anxious to death. Shui Wuxia, who had gained endless patience in her deep sleep, could do anything calmly and unhurriedly. She wasn't in a hurry. Anyway, she would arrive one day. If it was the impatient Princess Sisai here, she would probably get sick from holding it in. She didn't know how long she had walked. Just when Shui Wuxia's calm temperament was about to collapse, she suddenly realized that there was someone training in front of her. This person was also a little Lolis. However, she was a big Lolis. She was bigger than Shuang Air and Yonyo, but much smaller than Bing Air and Bao Air. Her appearance had an indescribable sense of familiarity. It was as if she had seen this big Lolis not long ago. She was so familiar that she was like a relative. It made people feel close and at ease. "Little sister, who are you?" Shui Wuxia knew that this was definitely not her relative. However, she was very suspicious that this little sister was that bad boy's relative. Maybe she was his younger sister or something. Originally, that bad boy's younger sisters were Bing Air and Shuang Air. There shouldn't be anyone else. However, when this big Lolis appeared in front of Shui Wuxia, she was unwilling to deny that there wasn't another possibility. Maybe she was another flower bud from the Hope Flower Tree, another fruit, another wish from Yu Yang's mother. Or maybe there were other reasons. However, this little sister was definitely his relative. This little sister was wearing a strange costume that Shui Wuxia had never seen before. When she saw Shui Wuxia, she immediately stopped her training and quickly walked up to greet her. Her little head was slightly tilted and her big eyes blinked. She also looked at Shui Wuxia like the pink little Lolis just now. "My face isn't very dirty, is it?" Shui Wuxia felt a little guilty after being looked at by her, and subconsciously touched her face. The little sister smiled, but didn't say anything. She reached out her hand. Shui Wuxia didn't quite understand. She guessed that the other party was doing this to show goodwill. Perhaps he wanted to hold her little hand, so she tentatively stretched out her jade-like hand and gently held the other party's soft little hand. A safe and intimate touch made Shui Wuxia's heart calm down. This was definitely a relative. The next second, however, she was shocked to find that the little sister in front of her had casually condensed a golden dragon-shaped sword aura. She then floated up and stepped on the dragon's head. She pulled Shui Wuxia, and the dragon flew swiftly. In the blink of an eye, she didn't know how far they had flown. If they were in the world of mortals, they would have already flown over thousands of mountains and rivers. "Where are we going?" Shui Wuxia thought. "Is she going to take me away from this strange world and send me back to the bad boy?" The big Lola smiled sweetly at her, but didn't explain. The golden dragon condensed by the sword aura seemed to have passed through endless time and space. Shui Wuxia was dazzled along the way. She didn't even have time to feel it carefully. Suddenly, she felt that her body was light. The golden dragon disappeared. She realized that she had appeared in a beautiful world that was extremely bright, filled with divine power and spiritual energy. Compared to this beautiful and dreamy heavenly realm, Shui Wuxia realized that even the most beautiful world that she had been to before was a joke compared to this place. It was not even worth mentioning. The Bad Boys Grimoire world was created by the will of the world. In addition to everyone's construction, it was also extremely beautiful. But it couldn't be compared to this. That feeling was like the huge difference between an ugly duckling and a white swan. Shui Wuxia's divine power could finally be displayed here. Moreover, it was thousands of times stronger. She was floating in the sky and looking down at the beautiful scenery in front of her realized that every place in this world was indescribably beautiful. The most eye-catching thing was that there was a divine rainbow at the top of the sky. It shone through the entire sky. She didn't know how much time and divine power would be needed to condense it. Below the divine rainbow, in the far distance, there was a thin red pillar that stretched from the foot of the mountain to the sky and finally disappeared into the horizon. Shui Wuxia moved her mind, and her divine power brought her to the front of the red pillar. She was surprised to find out that the red pillar was not something else. It was the unique Nirvana flame pillar that only the bad boy had. She was sure that the bad boy would not be able to condense such a huge Nirvana flame pillar, let alone make it stand between heaven and earth forever. This Nirvana flame pillar was estimated to be 10 kilometers wide, maybe even more. It reached into the sky. She didn't know where it ended. "Sister, why is it you?" A cute and tender voice sounded from within the Nirvana flame pillar. Then, before Shui Wuxia could react, a small head had already crashed into her chest. In the next second, she was sent flying by the strong impact of the small head. If it wasn't for the integration of her ice and snow divine power, she might have been knocked out of breath by this rash little fellow. "It's Bing-yin." Shui Wuxia was overjoyed. Finally, there was an acquaintance. Although this little girl was a bit rash with her appearance, she could finally put down the boulder in her heart. "Sister Wuxia, why are you here?" The little head in her arms raised her face. It was indeed the Qilin girl, Bing-yin. "I don't know." Shui Wuxia couldn't answer. When she fell asleep, she was in the chaotic clouds. Then, she met two cute little Lolas, and then a little sister who felt like a family. Sword Chi turned into a dragon, and then she rode the dragon all the way here. It was more bizarre than a dream. Not to mention others, even she couldn't believe it. Shui Wuxia looked up to the sky. At the top of the sky, the golden dragon had already disappeared. The little sister who felt like a family was also gone. But there were stars. They were flashing, like her big bright eyes. Shui Wuxia had an illusion in her heart. It seemed that she could see the little sister was very high in the sky, smiling sweetly at her and waving goodbye. Chapter 12:15. Western Heaven Realm, Shihe Region, Ling-Yin Country. Sunshine City, which was the closest to the Heaven Realm Gate, no longer existed. Back then, Sunshine City was the logistics base for the attack on Tong Tian Tower, and Sun Island was the headquarters of the Heaven Realm's experts. Because the Guardian Elder Qi had activated the forbidden pink star device in the light secret passage in front of the Forbidden Light dungeon to prevent the captives of Tong Tian Tower from escaping, he had completely destroyed the entire Sunshine City. Even the area within a radius of 10 kilometers had been razed to the ground. Today, a group of people flew over the ruins that had been untouched for a long time. This group of people were Fatty Hai, Yi Kong, Shui Tanlang, Prince of Tianluo, and the others who were left behind by Yu Yang in Green Willow City in Tianhua region. When they came to the ruins, Yi Kong stopped cautiously and separated from Fatty Hai and the others, as if a terrifying enemy would jump out of the ruins at any time. Not only Yi Kong and Fatty Hai, Shui Tanlang and Prince of Tianluo also stared at the ruins as if they were facing a great enemy. "Children, don't be nervous." A gentle voice seemed to appear in the distant sky, but it rang clearly in their ears. In the ruins, a piece of land magically floated upwards, showing a round hole that could be entered. It was about 10 meters in diameter, but no one knew how deep it was. A silver-haired old man with neat clothes and meticulously combed hair walked out of the circular hole slowly through the air. He was Jiao Shi, the heavenly prisoner king Gao Peng, who had always disguised himself and acted as a butler in Rizhao City. He was one of the 4 kings under the prison emperor, not to mention Fatty Hai, Yi Kong, and the other juniors. Even Yu Yang, who was the successor of the prison emperor, had to show some respect to this old fellow. Yu Yang came to Rizhao City to rescue the seniors of Tong Tian Tower, who were imprisoned here during the battle against the prison emperor. However, most of these old fellows were already souls. Adding on the passing of time, 6,000 years had already passed. They were unwilling to return to Tong Tian Tower to face their countless generations of descendants. They only wished to continue to silently protect their distant hometown in the Heaven Realm. Heaven Prisoner King, Senior Gao. When Yi Kong and Fatty Hai saw Heaven Prisoner King Gao Peng, they immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Shui Tanlang and Prince of Tianluo, who were on guard in the sky, also flew down. He paid his respects to the heavenly prisoner king, Gao Peng. Gao Peng waved his hand lightly. There is no more sky prisoner king now. It is the era of the new prison emperor. It is your era. You don't have to be polite with us old fellows. By the way, has the matter you mentioned before been verified? When he asked, Yi Kong and the others' faces immediately became serious. Even Fatty Hai, who usually loved to laugh and play around, became serious. Yi Kong nodded heavily and said with certainty, "There's no mistake in the information. It has been confirmed." Hearing Yi Kong's reply, Gao Peng, who was once one of the four kings of the prison emperor, also became serious and sighed. 6,000 years. It has already been 6,000 years. Even if the new prison emperor didn't rise up, the Central Divine Palace would never forget to deal a blow to our Tong Tian Tower. They would never give us the time to rest and build up our strength. Tong Tian Tower has always been a thorn in their side. Now that 6,000 years have passed, how could they continue to watch and not make a move? Moreover, that little fellow's growth had already begun to pose a threat to them. They would absolutely not turn a blind eye to it. When the Sun King died, I already had this premonition. Now, they have come just a little faster than I expected. Fatty Hai anxiously scratched his head. That brat is not here. With just a few of us, how could we defeat the Central Shrine's punitive army? Prince of Tian Luo looked at him in disdain. Don't talk big. The Central Shrine's punitive army? Even the Heaven Realm mercenary army they recruited was enough to flatten Tong Tian Tower. It was said that the Central Shrine had already recruited 100,000 Heaven Realm rankers who were above Heaven ranked level 5. Not to mention the irregular army below Heaven ranked level 5 and Earth ranked. There are at least 1 million enemies. Do you dare to think about it with just us? Even if they don't retaliate and stretch out their necks for you to chop, how many can you kill, Fatty? 100,000? Hearing that the Central Shrine had recruited 100,000 Heaven Realm rankers who were above Heaven ranked level 5, Heaven Prisoner King Gao Peng became silent for a long time. They had planned this. Shuitan Lang made such a judgment. Even if it was the Central Shrine, it would be very difficult to recruit 100,000 Heaven ranked level 5 and above Heaven ranked rankers. After all, it is impossible for every Heaven ranked ranker to be willing to risk their lives for them and go to Tong Tian Tower. The fact that they were able to recruit so many people proves that they were already prepared. Yi Kong agreed. This news is... Gao Peng really wanted to know why Yi Kong and Fatty Hai were so clear about the Central Shrine's movements. It's like this. Maybe you still remember. Third young master once saved a golden crow prince and his beloved concubine in Rizhao City. When the 8th prince of the Golden Crow clan, Wu Hai, heard the news from the Central Shrine, he was very loyal and rushed to Tianhua region to inform Third Young Master. However, he did not know that Third Young Master had already gone to the trial grounds. After a few twists and turns, he finally reached Green Willow City and found us. Yi Kong explained to Gao Peng in detail. So you guys sent that world-destroying demon wolf over to inform us. Gao Peng nodded. Where's Hui Tai Lang? Only now did Fatty Hai realize that Hui Tai Lang was not there. I'll let return to Tong Tian Tower. Gao Peng sighed slightly. Although the information you sent was not clear enough, I also guessed that the army was pressing on. So I'll let the world-destroying demon wolf return, hoping that Tong Tian Tower would receive the news in advance and be prepared. Isn't the space-time crack of the Heaven Realm Gate very unstable? Is Hui Tai Lang in danger? Yi Kong and the others were shocked. If Hui Tai Lang disappeared in the space-time crack of the sealed space of the Heaven Realm Gate, then they really did not know how to explain it to Yang. Although Hui Tai Lang was a world-destroying demon wolf, it did not contract with Yang, nor was it a guardian warbeast. If it died or was swallowed by the whirlpool of the space-time crack, it might never be able to resurrect and return to everyone's side. Yi Kong and Fatty Hai let Hui Tai Lang report because they felt that it was fast enough and safe enough. They had never thought of letting it pass through the space-time crack and return to Tong Tian Tower. Now that Gao Peng said it, everyone was shocked. It would be best if nothing happened, otherwise they would not have the face to see Yu Yang again. Gao Peng smiled. That world-destroying demon wolf is smarter than you and has an almost immortal body. How could it be swallowed by a small space-time crack? Besides, I did not let it pass through the space-time crack of the Heaven Realm Gate. In order to avoid alerting the enemy, I thought of another way. In fact, under these ruins, when the Forbidden Light Powder Star exploded, there was a crack in it. It was created by old ghosts like us when we tried to break out of prison. It took us 6,000 years to break out of the prison, but we didn't expect that the explosion would create a space-time crack that leads to the sealed space. It's a little dangerous for a human body to pass through, but it shouldn't be a problem for the apocalyptic demon wolf to pass through. Don't worry, I'm not stupid enough to send the apocalyptic demon wolf to its death for no reason. Fortunately, Yikong and Fatty Hai both patted their chests. With Sky Prisoner King's words, they reluctantly put down the big stone in their hearts. In that case, Tong Tian Tower has already received the news that the Heaven Realm's Central Shrine's army is about to arrive. Prince Tian Luo also let out a sigh of relief. Although it was difficult to resist the army, it was better than being unaware and unprepared. The news has probably been sent back, but there is no exact number. Gao Peng shook her head. At that time, you only received a letter. The information on it was not clear. Actually, the exact number was provided to us by another ally. Yikong was also helpless. 8th Prince Wuhai did not know the exact number in the army's attack. He only rushed over to report. Moreover, he wasn't talking about conquering our Tong Tian Tower. Instead, he was talking about gathering an army and heading towards Shihe Domain to arrest the 3rd Young Master and the traitors of the Dark World. He even used the excuse of avenging the 9 Glory clan. However, once we heard it, we understood that their real goal was to attack Tong Tian Tower. Not long after we sent Hui Tai Lang to report, another friend called Dugu Chong Feng also confirmed this news. He said that the heaven rank rankers from the hundreds of regions around the central shrine had already been mobilized. Countless heaven rank rankers had been recruited to participate in this expedition. In order to obtain the most accurate data, and also to try to wait for the 3rd Young Master to see if he could return in time, we waited at Green Willow City for close to a month, but the 3rd Young Master was still in the trial and had not returned. However, we obtained accurate data from Ming Ri Hao, one of the Heaven Realm's 3 great leaders, Ming Yuguang's brother, who fought with the Prison Emperor. This time, the Central Shrine's punitive army has more than 100,000 elites above Heaven Rank Level 5, more than 1 million ordinary soldiers, and millions of logistics personnel. An army of 1 million is not that easy to mobilize. We should still have some time. Gao Peng estimated that it would take at least 3 months before the official invasion. It is said that the Central Shrine has a teleportation device called Divine Light Guidance. It can teleport across regions very quickly. Yikong said worriedly. Indeed, but even if there is, it is not easy to mobilize an army of 1 million. Gao Peng nodded. We must prepare within a month. Prince of Tian Luo also made his judgment. As for Shui Tanlang, he was too lazy to think about it. He felt that his responsibility was to take action and kill as many enemies as possible. Our allies in the various regions of the Heaven Realm will also buy us some time. Fatty Hai was rather optimistic. Ming Ri Hao has become an ally? Is it believable? Gao Peng was still a little suspicious. Previously, the Heaven Realm's 3 great leaders fought against the Prison Emperor. How did they suddenly become allies? This is because of the 3rd Young Master. Yikong laughed. If it wasn't for a certain 3rd Young Master who often wrote ancient rune love letters to Wu Ming Yuguang, it would be difficult to become an ally. Of course, the reason why Ming Ri Hao could become an ally was because of the battle with the Sun King. After this battle, Uncle Ming Ri Hao, who had a heavy taste, will be able to live happily with the 8-meter-tall Pearl Beauty. Yang had even given them a wedding gift. Although it couldn't be that quasi-divine weapon-wishing pearl, Red was right. What Red had said was right. Once a treasure entered Yu Yang's hands, it would be difficult to take it back, no matter what. There was no doubt that Ming Ri Hao was Chu Yang's close ally and relative. Then what do you guys plan to do now? Gao Peng also felt a little awkward. Although he had sent Hui Tai Lang back to report, the information was not accurate. Tong Tian Tower didn't know how to prepare, so someone had to go back. However, the space-time crack was extremely dangerous. Forget about Yikong and Fatty Hai. Even he himself didn't have the confidence to return to Tong Tian Tower smoothly. This wasn't a matter of ability, but the whirlpool in the space-time crack. It was very easy for people to get lost in the complicated space-time passage. Perhaps they would be safe, but if they spent a year and a half to find the exit, wouldn't they be delaying everything? Let's go. Fatty High stepped forward and patted his chest. You? You guys? Gao Peng immediately shook his head. Think twice. This space-time crack is extremely small. It's even more unstable than the crack at the Heaven Realm Gate. It's not something a human body can withstand. Even if you have Ji Zun's will, you can't withstand it for long. This isn't something that can be crossed in a short period of time. It might take a few days, 10 days, half a month, or even a year. How are you going to withstand it? Furthermore, the more people there are, the more dangerous it is. If one of you gets sucked away by the whirlpool, it would increase the possibility of you going missing. If you want to return to Tong Tian Tower safely, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens. Why don't you guys maintain the space-time crack and let us old fogies take action? We are people who have lived long enough. We are different from you guys who have limitless futures. We have a better way than you guys. Fatty High raised his head and puffed out his chest, his face full of pride. Don't say that we don't know how to control the space-time crack's energy. Even if we do, we can't let you guys take the risk. Many seniors are only left with incomplete souls. Once they enter the space-time crack, it's very likely that they will be annihilated immediately. So let us go through this time. As juniors, we have the courage to explore and move forward bravely. This has always been the tradition of Tong Tian Tower. Most importantly, we have found the best way. You guys have a way? What way? Heavenly Prisoner King Gao Peng was surprised. AI, this little fatty, actually had a way that he couldn't solve? It's a secret for now. Fatty High revealed his 8 front teeth. Gao Peng was speechless. Can I not be a senior anymore? What kind of juniors are these? Why are they all more cunning and cunning than the other? It's fine if that third young master is a bad boy, but why is this little fatty also full of bad ideas? Could it be that I was too naive back then? I really don't understand youngsters nowadays. There was also Yu Yang, who was in the mountain beyond mountain. Of course, he wouldn't know that Tong Tian Tower was about to be invaded by the Central Shrine's army. After he defeated the mysterious man and comprehended the new realm, the first thing he did was to welcome back Princess Sisai. Before Red and Ah-Man found Ji Wuri and waited for Shui Wuxia to return, he decided to familiarize himself with the various things that he had comprehended in the new realm and continue to improve himself. Before he was ready to try new experiments with Yu Yu and Sickly Beauty, he suddenly remembered that there was still a stubborn freedom queen at home who refused to let him help her no matter what. This girl had lost half of her body, but she still refused to let him treat her. Now, it seemed that the time had come. He had to have a good talk with her. Chapter 12:16. When Yu Yang went to look at the freedom girl, Wang Ingluo, he realized that there was something wrong with this girl. Previously, she had always resisted him. Even when Princess Sisai, Sickly Beauty, and Yu Yu took turns to persuade her, she didn't waver. It was only when the two girls, Inan and Yu Bing, used some unknown method that she was finally persuaded. At that time, Yu Yang didn't have the time to help her fuse with the goddess body, but because of her enlightenment, he broke through to a new realm. Now that Yu Yang went to look for her again, he thought that things would be much easier because he had already agreed to it. Unexpectedly, this freedom girl, Wang Ingluo, rejected him again. Why? Yu Yang was speechless. Can you not tell me the reason? Freedom girl, Wang Ingluo, seemed to be unwilling to tell Yu Yang the truth, and her expression was a little strange. No, if I don't understand the reason, I won't be able to sleep when I go back. Then I'll hold it in until I explode. My head, my heart, and everything else will explode. Yu Yang was helpless. He had clearly said that he would fuse with her body, and at that time, he even wanted to use her to create a god. Although this idea was a little childish, it was definitely not wrong to care about her. You're always overbearing. Freedom girl, Wang Ingluo, was unwilling to look Yu Yang in the eye. What? If I was really overbearing, I wouldn't be talking to you in such a gentle voice. Yu Yang almost went crazy. The reason why I rejected you is because there's a kind of light in your eyes that makes me feel uneasy. Freedom girl, Wang Ingluo, bit her lips and suddenly gave this answer in a low voice. My eyes are glowing. Yu Yang quickly looked at himself in the mirror and realized that he still looked like a human. He didn't turn into a moonlit wolf at all. Or did it start glowing? No, it's not that light. Wang Yingluo waved her hand and explained angrily. Anyway, I feel a little uncomfortable. It's not an uncomfortable feeling, but it's hard to describe. I can't express it clearly. Anyway, it's a very special feeling. I'm very confused now, and I don't know what to do. Please let me calm down for a while. Are you afraid? Are you afraid of me? Yu Yang thought to himself. Am I a tiger that chooses its prey? Wang Yingluo shook her head. You don't trust me? Yu Yang was shocked. It was over. She had seen through his disguise as a bad person. But Wang Yingluo still shook her head. Is that because you don't feel safe? Yu Yang really couldn't guess it. As the saying goes, a woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. Who could guess it? Freedom girl, Wang Yingluo gracefully bowed to Yu Yang. I promise my two little sisters, Inan and Yubing. Yingluo will naturally keep her promise. But now that my mind is in a mess, it's really hard for Yingluo to cooperate. Why don't we come again next time? What she meant was that she wouldn't go back on her words. She would definitely cooperate with Yu Yang to complete his plan of fusing with the divine body. However, she didn't say why she rejected Yu Yang this time. There was a kind of inexplicable feeling, let alone Yu Yang. Even if it was someone else, they would probably be confused by this strange action. Yu Yang had no choice but to take his leave. When he reached the door, he suddenly turned around and stared at Yingluo, who was sent to the door like a wolf in the moonlight. This abrupt action shocked the Freedom Queen. She hurriedly took a step back and looked at him in astonishment, not knowing what he wanted to say. Who knew that Yu Yang didn't say anything and turn around to leave? Just when the Freedom Queen patted her chest to show her relief, he suddenly rushed back and stared at her bewildered eyes. What do you mean? Freedom girl, Wang Yingluo, was confused by him. She didn't say anything and kept turning back to stare at him. What did this mean? Didn't you ask me to guess riddles just now? I'll let you guess what I mean and make you feel uncomfortable in your heart. I'll let you experience my feelings. When Yu Yang saw how frightened the Freedom Queen was, his mood suddenly improved and he laughed out loud. Freedom girl, Wang Yingluo, was speechless. Was this guy still a child? I'm leaving. Yu Yang waved his hand and left. This time, he was really going to leave. Wait a minute. Unexpectedly, Yingluo opened her mouth and called out to him. There's no lack of beauties around you. You're happy and laughing every day. Why do you still care about me? Yingluo has always been like this. There's no need to pity her. This matter has nothing to do with you. Why do you have to put your thoughts on Yingluo? Have you ever thought about how Yingluo feels in her heart? This time, it was Yu Yang's turn to be speechless because he really hadn't thought about it. He had always felt that he had good intentions. He wanted to fuse with Freedom Girl, Wang Yingluo, so that she could become a complete woman again. She wouldn't need to support her life with a broken body. Although his intentions weren't wrong, Yu Yang really didn't think about Yingluo's feelings. He instinctively thought that since it was a good thing, why wouldn't she be willing to accept it? Moreover, he didn't want anything from her. He just wanted to help her. It was rare for him, who had done thousands of bad things, to do a good deed. If this girl refused to accept it, it might be the biggest loss for the entire heaven realm. The Queen of Freedom, Yingluo, closed in and stared into the eyes of the guy from another world. Her voice was no longer gentle as she shouted, "You are always like this. Do I have to choose the best one? Why didn't you ask me before?" Yu Yang's body was forced to lean back by her. He wiped his sweat guiltily. Didn't I ask? I think I did, right? I asked everyone to come and ask you. Yingluo continued to stare at him, her eyes almost touching Yu Yang's. Their noses rubbed against each other, and their lips were less than 2 inches apart. Yes, you asked others to come and ask me. But what about you? Did you come and ask me personally? You let everyone know about me. You discussed with everyone about me. You made a comprehensive arrangement together, but you didn't do it immediately. Even until the end, you didn't personally come and look for Yingluo. This is what makes my heart uncomfortable. You guys decided everything for me. Even though I know that your intentions were good and that it was the best choice, you didn't know, and you didn't try to understand, that what Ingluo hoped for the most was to be able to arrange her own life. Before this, Ingluo had been working hard for other people's happiness all her life. Until you told me that everything I did was only for the happiness that I hoped for, and not for the happiness that everyone would truly obtain. You told me to free myself and let the people in the world work hard to find their own happiness, while Ingluo herself could also live freely. That's what you told me, but you didn't do it, and you didn't give me such an opportunity. You don't know. This is what makes Ingluo the most sad. You are willing to do everything for me, but you don't try to understand me, a loner who has already lost my original beliefs and is lost in my dreams, thinking all day but not knowing what to do. I don't know. Yu Yang sweated profusely. The feeling that you give me is very firm, even firmer than my Jizun's will. I don't know what you were talking about. You don't want to understand. Freedom Girl Wang Ingluo stared at Yu Yang. You only trust the girls that you brought from Tong Tian Tower. No. Yu Yang hurriedly defended himself. There's definitely no such thing. You are lying. Ingluo's eyes seemed to be able to see through a person's heart. Yu Yang's forehead was covered in sweat. Maybe it looks like that on the surface, but in fact, it's just an illusion. Yu Yang tried to give an example, such as Ming Yuguang, but that girl was also someone that he had a hard time trusting. In the middle, he had flirted with her for a long time. It was only at the moment when he finally became a god and their hearts were connected that he truly trusted her. For example, Qing Ping, this traitorous, cursed Murloc girl from Tong Tian Tower. If it wasn't for the sacrifice at the end that showed her sincerity, she probably wouldn't have been able to gain his trust. Moreover, she was still lying in Aquamarine's mother of pearl to recover her body. Another example would be Bai Lu. That emerald female lord was initially used by him as a chess piece. Later on, they got together because of a marriage alliance. Of course, it didn't matter after he pushed her down. The same situation also applied to Leader Raging Flames, who became twin sisters with Bai Lu after eating the fairy divine fruit. In the end, Yu Yang felt that this was really the case. The people he trusted the most were still the girls from Tong Tian Tower. They were his lovers or relatives. Their relationship was not something that could be replaced by love at first sight. From the first battle, from the first time he grew up, people like Bing Er and Anan were by his side. The first time he faced a strong enemy, the Marquis of Zijin, it was Shui Wuxia who fought with him to the death. In every battle, Princess Sisai, Fallen Beauty, Drunken Cat, and the others were by his side. In Heaven Realm, out of an instinctive vigilance, he had a natural resistance towards everything other than Tong Tian Tower. No matter how well he concealed it on the surface, it couldn't change this fact. No matter how loyal his subordinates in Heaven Realm were, they couldn't compare to his subordinates in Tong Tian Tower. Not to mention his companions like Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, Shui Tan Lang, and the others who fought and grew up together. The more Yu Yang thought about it, the more guilty he felt. The more he thought about it, the more he sweated. In the end, he had no choice. He could only use his ultimate move. The guy from another world kissed the free girl Wang Ingluo's lips. When she was so shocked that her whole body trembled, he kissed her fiercely. Only when she was about to suffocate did he let her go. He stared back at her and pressed his body against hers. His voice was 10 times louder than before, and his aura was like a ferocious tiger. That's right, I am this kind of person. You are absolutely right. I have arranged everything for you, including living in the grimoire world and fusing with the goddess body. I want to do it. I want to do it. Why? Do you want to know the reason? I don't like your aloof, incomparably pure, and benevolent appearance. I don't like your detachment. I don't like your indifferent life. I don't like everything about you. You make me feel ashamed of my inferiority and make me feel humble. Your existence magnifies my selfishness by 1,000 times, causing my non-existent conscience to surface and then interrogate me forcefully. It makes my heart feel very uncomfortable. I need to use 1,000 reasons to explain that I'm right, but you always shatter it so easily. I don't want to, I can't, and I don't need to be a good person. but with a free queen like you existing, my heart feels uncomfortable. A person like you, I feel that you are a pervert who doesn't have a woman's body and doesn't even have 7 emotions and 6 desires. That's why I want to change you. I want you to become a real woman. I want you to be selfish and work hard for your own happiness. I want you to become a real woman and let lust torture your heart and body. This way, I will feel good. This way, I will achieve my goal. This way, I can have a good night's sleep with a clear conscience. Now, do you still have any questions? I want to do this. I want you to become a real woman. I want you to yield to my will. I want your world to no longer be someone else's illusory happiness and freedom, but become your own bit by bit love. I want you to never have the time to think about what true happiness is. I want you to stay by my side and laugh foolishly for the rest of your life. Do you understand now? The free woman Wang, Yingluo's eyes widened. She looked at Yu Yang with a shocked expression, as if she had seen a madman. Just when Yu Yang's secret was exposed, his conspiracy was revealed, and he was ready to slip away. She suddenly smiled. That pure and holy little face had never been so happy and sweet. She asked the dumbfounded Yu Yang, "Am I smiling foolishly?" Chapter 12:17. Yu Yang came back dejectedly. Everyone looked at him. Even Yu felt that it was strange. Since both parties had already spoken to each other, the matter should have been settled. Why did he come back? Sickly Beauty was the more attentive one. She realized that there was something wrong with this brat's lips. It seemed like he had bitten it. Could it be? Everyone immediately understood. So that's what happened. Drunken Cat gave him a thumbs up and publicly praised Yu Yang for his fearless and courageous actions. He could even forcefully kiss a girl like Wang Yingluo, who was a super difficult girl. Princess Sisai rolled her eyes in annoyance. She thought to herself that it was all because you guys had spoiled him. If it was her, it would be weird if she didn't give him a punch. Have a good rest. Yu hurriedly comforted her brother, who was chased out of the door by Yingluo after she smiled sweetly. As long as he succeeded, there was no need to be anxious. That Freedom Queen probably realized that there were many people eavesdropping outside. She was shy, so she chased him out of the door. Princess Sisai, who was pretending to read, stood up and knocked on Yu Yang's head with a book. "Tigress, what are you doing?" Yu Yang sweated profusely. He realized that there was something wrong with this girl just now. She rarely read books, so why did she imitate Shui Wuxia? So she wanted to hit him with a book. What kind of mentality was this? This was too much. He had to be angry, or else this tigress would go to the roof and tear the tiles. Princess Sisai, however, explained forcefully. "When I was reading the book just now, I saw some descriptions of happiness and silly laughter. I was in a bad mood. Tell me, how could there be such an idiot who would write such despicable words?" He was finished. He shouted at Yingluo too loudly just now, and this tigress heard him. Yu Yang sweated profusely. However, if he wanted to object, he could have just said it out loud. Why did he have to use books to insinuate it? The guy from another world, whose skin was thicker than the city walls, quickly adjusted his mentality and used the ultimate move of heaven and earth great shift. He immediately changed the topic. Hey, even if you're unhappy, you can't hit people. Did I hit anyone just now?" A certain tigress was not only barbaric, but she was also a rascal at times. Of course, this move of hers was learned from Yu Yang. It seems so. Drunken Cat was the only one who supported her husband a little, while the others did nothing to save him. Oh, a certain tigress had no intention of reflecting on her actions. Forget about apologizing. You should at least give me a reason, right? Yu Yang felt that he had been wronged. Do I need a reason to beat someone up? A certain tigress glared at him with a pair of tiger-like eyes that could instantly kill the supreme will of the dimensional traveler. Don't you need it? Yu Yang was so scared that he shrunk his body. He lowered his head and touched his 2 index fingers in front of him as he asked weakly, "Do I need it?" A certain tigress was very pleased with herself. Suppressing a certain big pervert in her family was one of her greatest achievements in life. Other than the other Xuanyo, no one else in her family could match up to her in terms of pressure. She looked down on everyone, ignoring that pitiful little pervert. If you want to hit me, then hit me. It's that simple. If it wasn't for the fact that she felt that her image was not good, she would have laughed out loud 3 times. Okay, when Yu Yang heard this, he immediately took action. He pressed Princess Qian Qian, who was caught unprepared, onto his knees. Raising his palm, he slapped her perky buttocks 3 times in a row. Yu Yu and Sickly Beauty were dumbstruck. What was going on? Was this brat going to defy the heavens today? Not only did he hit Princess Sisai, this tigress, he even hit her buttocks in front of everyone. This was too inconceivable. This scene was simply unbelievable. Drunken Cat and the others were all rubbing their eyes, thinking that they were seeing things. Princess Sisai, who was pressed down and had her buttocks spanked, was also dumbstruck. She didn't even have time to react. When she regained her consciousness and raised the prison tiger divine sword, Yu Yang had already slipped away faster than a rocket. With a whoosh, he disappeared, leaving behind only a sentence in the air. You were the one who said that if you want to hit me, then hit me. I only strictly carried out your wishes. The embarrassed and angry Princess Sisai's face was now completely red. Her hands that were holding the prison tiger divine sword were trembling nonstop. She gritted her teeth so hard that she almost broke them. If I catch you, you're dead meat. Yu Yu and Sickly Beauty were secretly laughing. They had always seen the arrogant Princess Sisai, tigress bullying Yu Yang, that brat. As the saying goes, if you climb many mountains, you will eventually meet a tiger. Now, it was the opposite. This tigress was finally hit, and it was even hit in front of everyone. It could be said that this was retribution. Cough, cough, he's in the wrong. I'll definitely scold him. Yu Yu held back her laughter to comfort the trembling Princess Sisai. Are you all right? It seems like you didn't hit her very hard. Drunken Cat said this with a hint of schadenfreude. What do you mean not hard? Try me. Princess Sisai was furious. It was indeed not hard. However, this was a great humiliation. Not only did he hit her secretly, but he also hit her in front of everyone. This was too much. However, Drunken Cat was not angry. Instead, she laughed and said, I let him hit me all the time. What's wrong with that? He's the one who spoils you and treats you like a treasure. He's afraid that you'll fall and melt in his mouth. He can't bear to hit you. Otherwise, your butt would have already split open. She hinted that Princess Sisai was too arrogant and always went against him. She did not know how to be flexible. Yu Yang was her man. She had to coax him, scold him, criticize him when he needed to, praise him when he needed to, be firm when he needed to, and be obedient when he needed to. She could not be stubborn all the time. If she did not feel sorry for her man, who would feel sorry for him? Princess Sisai was stunned when she heard this. Then she reacted. Her anger dissipated. She sheathed her sword. However, on the surface, she did not want to admit defeat. She raised her fist and said, It's up to you to do what you want. Anyway, I can't hit you for nothing. Oomph. Seeing this tigress retreating in defeat for the first time, everyone was secretly happy. Yu Yang hitting Princess Qian Qian's, but was unexpected, but everyone knew that such a day would come sooner or later, because he and she were born to be enemies. If it didn't make a ruckus for a day, they wouldn't be happy. Everyone's way of expressing themselves was different, and perhaps this was her way of expressing herself. After Princess Sisai left, Fallen Beauty suddenly asked Drunken Cat softly, Does he hit you there often? Does it feel good after he hits you? Drunken Cat's face turned red, and she waved her hands in a panic. No, cough occasionally. Ask Sister Traceless. She knows best. Question mark. Everyone looked at Sickly Beauty again. I don't know, don't look at me. This time, it was Sickly Beauty's turn to blush. She also shook her head. He never hits me. I think it's Red and Aquamarine who do it more often. After all, their body's endurance is better, and they play more crazily. Is that so? I also want to try, but I'm a little afraid of pain. Fallen Beauty was looking forward to it. Actually, it doesn't hurt much. Cough, it's a little weird. I can't explain it clearly. Don't look at me like that. I really don't do it often. Occasionally. I already said it's occasionally. As the Drunken Cat, Big Sis, spoke, she unconsciously stroked the full moon. This topic brought up some secrets that she had buried deep in her heart that were not suitable to be made public. That was a sweetness that could only be shared with him. I'm sleepy. Yu was speechless. Could the pleasure of the boudoir be discussed openly here? Not only was it embarrassing, but it was also easy to teach bad things to children. Lu Yi, who was sitting in the corner, covered her face with her hands. She was so shy that she didn't dare to open her eyes to look at others. Xia Yi, who was sitting beside her, pretended to be indifferent, but her stiff body and slightly trembling fingertips all showed the nervousness in her heart. Discussing the pleasure of the boudoir, although she was later forced to become the holy maiden of the heavenly dragon clan by the female dragon race followers, and also had an engagement with Yu Yang, their relationship had never broken through. They had only tried kissing and hugging a few times. Now that she heard everyone discussing this matter that had reached the level of lovemaking, the impact was too great. Fortunately, Bao the naughty cat, was not here. Otherwise, she might have said one or two shocking words, making the scene even more awkward. Yu Yang, who hit Princess Sisai's little butt, knew that it was not good. If he didn't run away, he would definitely be chased down. He quickly ran to find Aquamarine. This ocean empress had a grimoire, and she was not as afraid of Princess Sisai as Bai Lu and Raging Flame were. It would definitely not be a problem to hide at her place to avoid the limelight. Most importantly, with her, there was also a hybrid fishman girl whose body had become broken because of resisting the curse of 10,000 years. Although it had been repaired for more than half a year and was close to perfection, Yu Yang felt that he could repair that girl's body even more perfectly because of his latest advancement and understanding. He decided to give it a try, which could also be regarded as a warm-up test for the future Freedom Girl Wang, Ying Luo, to fuse with the goddess's body. You hit Princess Sisai. When Aquamarine, the Ocean Empress, heard the news, she was also stunned. If you want to hit, then hit. Yu Yang hid in her grimoire world and pretended to be heroic. Aquamarine originally wanted to laugh at him a little, but on second thought, it was rare for her little husband to have such an awe-inspiring day, so she didn't mention it. Instead, she asked him with a smile, "Does it feel good? Doesn't it feel good?" Although Princess Sisai's temper is not good, but with her figure, even others don't have the confidence to beat her. After hitting her, you must feel good in your heart, right? Feel? Yu Yang recalled. That was really not bad, super elastic. It was a pity that he was too nervous at that time and didn't experience it carefully. Otherwise, it would have been even better. If we stripped that tigress and beat her up, it would definitely feel better. Aquamarine urged desperately. We'll talk about that later. Right now, I'll strip you, the Ocean Empress, and beat you up. Yu Yang was tempted by her. When it came to her figure, this Ocean Empress was definitely a seductress who could charm people to death. Furthermore, she was very wild in battle. Not only was their coordination excellent, she was also willing to use all kinds of methods to please men. If it wasn't for Yu Yang being super strong and invincible in one-on-one battles, he might not be able to defeat her. Can we not fight? A certain Ocean Empress begged for mercy. From her tone, she didn't care about stripping him naked. As for whether to fight or not, it was up to her lover to decide. Pa. This was the decision of a certain big pervert. Chapter 12:18. Tong Tian Tower, Meteor Shower Ocean. The current Meteor Shower Islands was no longer a scenic and relaxing place. 3 months ago, there had been inexplicable energy fluctuations here. When the sea race had sent people to patrol, they had found nothing. Just when people thought that it was a natural phenomenon, they continued to enjoy the sunshine on the beach. However, the many attacks that had followed had given the Starfall Sea a bad name of being a sea of blood. Including the Sea Clan warriors, a total of 6,000 guards, mercenaries, and innate alliance warriors died here. At the same time, there were also tens of thousands of tourists and a small number of older warriors who lived in seclusion in the Meteor Shower Ocean. They were all wiped out. There were no survivors in the waves of attacks. Such a bloody and cruel massacre shocked the entire Tong Tian Tower. Experts from the Demon Abyss and the Soaring Dragon Continent went out to search. The demonic palace even laid in ambush for a month. Strangely, they still found nothing. There were many different versions of the rumors circulating in the various races of the Tong Tian Tower. The most credible version was that a powerful and extremely cruel ancient evil warrior had awakened from his seal. Because he urgently needed to recover his strength, he used an evil blood sacrifice to slaughter the residents and wanderers near the meteor shower sea. As for why he disappeared after several waves of killing, why did he disappear without a trace? That was because the required amount of blood and energy was already enough. That ancient evil martial artist was preparing to refine and absorb it, and was currently hiding in some hidden place to restore his strength. Thus, the search was fruitless. If this ancient evil martial artist were to fully recover, then perhaps the entire sky-split tower would tremble beneath his demonic claws. At such a time, when everyone was in a state of panic and didn't know what to do, no one could stand up. The most trustworthy and powerful Yu Clan third young master had already left Tong Tian Tower and went to Heaven Realm to train. No one knew when he would return. Not only him, even Sky Execution, Dragon Emperor, Emperor of the Underworld, and many Demon Kings were not guarding Tong Tian Tower. They had all gone to Heaven Realm. The various clans in Tong Tian Tower were all on guard under the innate alliance. Unfortunately, there was no leader like the Yu Clan third young master who could stand out and lead the whole situation. The warriors of the various clans were really uncertain. Now that the truth was not confirmed, the warriors in Tong Tian Tower were already a little chaotic. If an extremely powerful ancient fallen warrior appeared in front of the world, they would not know how the situation would develop. Of course, that was what ordinary people saw and heard. But the truth was not like that. 3 months ago, on the day when Grey Wolf returned from the space-time crack of the Radiance continent, the leaders of all races knew the truth. The Heaven Realm army was about to launch a large-scale invasion. Although Grey Wolf couldn't speak, he was very smart. He only needed to bring everyone to the crystal pillar that recorded important events in the Tong Tian Tower and point at the 9 Light Clan's Heavenly Empress invasion. Everyone immediately understood what was going on. From that day onwards, the various races began to prepare for war. Although it was still kept a secret to prevent the ordinary people from panicking, the elites of the various races had already been deployed. It could be said that they were ready for battle. To the surprise of the Sky-reaching Tower's army, the invasion of the Heaven Realm was so fast that they almost came right after Grey Wolf. Moreover, the place where they appeared was not where the tomb of the god of sin of the Radiance continent was originally expected, but the meteorite sea. How could there be a space-time crack at the bottom of the meteorite sea that was connected to the Heaven Realm? No one knew, and no one could solve it. Because all the elites of the sea race had been transferred to the Radiance continent to guard the tomb of God, the meteorite sea archipelago, which had been invaded by a small force from the Heaven Realm, had paid a heavy price. As a result, there was not enough strength to defend the meteorite sea archipelago. Tens of thousands of corpses floated in the sea. Not only the wanderers, but also many of the older generation of martial artists from various races who had lived in seclusion here, none of them survived. When the elites of the sea race and the people of the demonic palace returned after hearing the news, the small force of the Heaven Realm that had invaded the Sky-reaching Tower had long been picked up by the traitors and disappeared without a trace. The current foundation of the Sky-reaching Tower is too weak. In the face of such a situation, Old Man Nangong, who is now standing on the meteorite sea, could not help but let out such a sigh. There's something fishy about this. The old fox standing beside him frowned. This move of the enemy not only took advantage of the absence of Boy Yu and the others to launch an attack, but also played a trick on us. It was obviously the tomb of the god of sin of the Radiance continent that invaded, but they deliberately massacred in the meteorite sea to divert our attention. Moreover, more importantly, they must have planted a spy among us. I dare say that if there were no traitors and no mole, it would be impossible for them to miss the time of our defense and launch 3 consecutive attacks. Maybe one of them has some kind of special skill. Not long ago, an elder of the Lost Clan, Greenleaf Elder Muhua, came back from the Heaven Realm. He did not quite agree with the old fox's view. In his opinion, there were many strange people in the heaven realm, and there were countless people who had some kind of special skill like this. Everyone is in a panic now. What should we do? The two Countess Jiewei and Countess Yin of the sea race came. The sea race had suffered heavy casualties. They felt that they had let down Aquamarine. However, Aquamarine, the Sea Empress, had gone to the heaven realm with Yu Yang, and no one knew when she would return. They were really helpless now. Their strength was not good enough, and their prestige was not enough. How could they suppress the current situation of the sea race? Old Man Nangong also felt quite embarrassed. He did not know how to comfort her. Yu Yang was not here, nor were Sky Execution and the Dragon Emperor. Even the young talents like Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, and Shui Tamlang were not here. At the time when they thought it was the safest, the Heaven Realm army had stabbed them in the back. This power was even more terrifying than the invasion of the Nine Light Clan's Empress. There was a possibility that Tong Tian Tower would really be destroyed. Their only hope now was that Yu Yang and the others could return in time. Of course, the current Tong Tian Tower was not in despair, because the Night Empress and Jizun were still there. Although they were all secretly cultivating in the Heaven Stairway, as long as they heard the news and returned, it would be much faster than waiting for Yu Yang to return after entering the trial ground. Report. A small group of Dragon Knights rushed over quickly. The captain was covered in blood. Inside the divine tomb of the Guangming continent, more than 10,000 Heaven Realm army have been discovered. The demonic palace, Dragon Knights, and Dragon Blood Guards are fighting with the enemy. We are guarding the exit of the divine tomb, but there are more than 10 Heaven Realm warriors disguised as miscellaneous soldiers, broke through the defense line and escaped. The Demon Abyss demon commanders could not catch up, so Great Commander Feng Kuang ordered us to ask for reinforcements. Just a mere Heaven Realm army, and you guys have made such a mess. The old fox was furious when he heard the report. You guys replied to Great Commander Feng Kuang. We will guard the teleportation channel below the 9th floor of Tong Tian Tower. Old Man Nangong comforted him. He understood. The Dragon Knights and Dragon Blood Guards, who had just been formed and had not experienced much blood and fire on the battlefield, were definitely a group of young master soldiers. To wait for them to become official elites, they would probably have to go through a long period of tempering and growth. To let them successfully stand out like Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, and the others, even if they were talented geniuses, it was estimated that it would only be possible after this Heaven Realm invasion. Just like how difficult it was for Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, and the others to grow up. Other than Yu Yang's guidance, they also had to go through countless life and death situations to temper themselves. The current Dragon Knights and Dragon Blood Guards had never truly experienced a life and death battle. They had never experienced a battlefield that could completely change their lives. They had never awakened themselves between life and death situations. How could it be easy for them to be reborn in an instant? They were able to do what they were doing now, not being defeated by the enemy. It was already extremely rare for them to fight to the end without fear of death. Is Hui Tai Lang here? The two countesses were most concerned about whether this lowly wolf would come out to fight. With it here, even the strongest Heaven Realm ranker would be swallowed in one bite. For the time being, they had not found any Heaven Realm rankers who dared to fight head-on. It was probably because of this reason that the Heaven Realm's advance army was very cunning. The miscellaneous soldiers could fight against each other, but the leaders would almost always disguise themselves and escape, waiting for an opportunity. From this, it could be seen that the Heaven Realm's information on Tong Tian Tower was very accurate. They had even calculated the strength of Hui Tai Lang. He's like our guardian god. Once Hui Tai Lang was mentioned, the entire Flying Dragon Cavalry became spirited. It was this lazy, lowly dog that had swallowed more than 10 strong enemies in a row, scaring the originally aggressive Heaven Realm army into a mess. That was why the leaders of the Heaven Realm army disguised themselves as miscellaneous soldiers and escaped. If it wasn't for Hui Tai Lang, the Heaven Realm army would not even care about the guards of Tong Tian Tower. Even if they were just some miscellaneous soldiers sent to scout, they would still be arrogant. Meteor Shower Ocean. It was just a place to lure the enemy. Since the enemy was not there, there was no need to continue staying behind to set up an ambush. Elder Nangong, the old fox, and the others discussed for a while, then dispersed in 4 directions and carried out their own plans. Around half an hour later, at the bottom of the meteor shower ocean, a few figures that looked like rocks or strange fish quickly floated up from the bottom of the ocean. Each of them took out dozens of subordinates that were squeezed out of shape from their storage bracelets. Without giving these fellows who were about to be squeezed to death a chance to catch their breath, they had already raised their legs and kicked them. At the same time, they scolded loudly. "You damned lowly slaves! Why aren't you quickly setting up the runic array? Today we have sacrificed almost 10,000 people to lure away the attention of those headache-inducing old ghosts. We were planning to bring the 10 kings to this damn Tong Tian Tower. If you can't complete this mission today, all of you can go and die. I want to use you lowly slaves as a blood sacrifice. Scram, why aren't you doing anything? All of you are like idiots." The slaves who were scolded were in a mess. In a flurry, they arranged a huge runic array that was close to 100 meters in diameter on a small island in the meteor shower ocean. The leaders coldly and mercilessly killed dozens of slaves in the middle of the runic array. Using blood as a medium, they sacrificed the runic array. Waves of light flickered. In the middle of the runic array, a blood-red beam of light shot out. What was strange was that this beam of light did not point toward the sky. Instead, it twisted and fell towards the deep sea of the meteor shower ocean. It twisted and snaked, but did not disperse. It was as if there was a space-time crack that led to the heaven realm in some unknown whirlpool at the bottom of the sea. After that blood-red, snake-like beam of light fell into the sea, not long after, there was a reaction. The leaders looked at each other and laughed. One of them, who had a lion's head, ridiculed. "Those fools of Tong Tian Tower who think they are smart. How could they have thought that in the depths of the meteor shower ocean, there really is a space-time crack that leads to the heaven realm? Master's fake and real, unpredictable, wonderful strategy is too brilliant. If you ask me, using it to fool these country bumpkins is simply a waste. With their pig brains, even if I don't use this strategy, I can fool them anytime and anywhere." Just as they were feeling proud of themselves, a golden light shot out from the bottom of the sea and soared into the sky. A leader with a sharp nose and fangs asked in confusion, "That's not right. There shouldn't be such a quick reaction. How could the teleportation be completed so quickly? Even if they sense the position of the teleportation, it can't be completed in one go. Shouldn't it take at least 3 hours? Maybe the king's strength is stronger, or maybe they teleported ahead of time." The leader with a lion's head and a man's face also felt strange. In the sky, the light dissipated. There was nothing left. Only the wind-breath seabird, whose feathers were in a mess, was left. It flew down in exhaustion, but before it could reach the shore, it fell into the sea with a plop. The waves almost drowned its pitiful little body. Why was it a small seabird that was teleported over? Were the 10 kings? Chapter 12:19. The sacrificial runic blood formation unexpectedly sent a wind-breath seabird over. For a moment, everyone was silent. No one knew what to say. After an unknown amount of time, under the watchful eyes of everyone, the exhausted and battered wind-breath seabird weakly flapped its wings. Using the last of its strength, it flew up from the surface of the sea. It swayed and swayed as it flew to the shore. In the end, it landed on the beach. Because it had no strength to control its small body flipped twice on the beach. Its wet feathers were stained with countless blood-stained sand. It looked very miserable. Fortunately, this little thing finally flew to the shore and saved its life. If it continued to stay on the sea, the next wave might drown this pitiful little thing. Cough, cough. After being in a daze for a long time, the Lion Man leader finally regained his senses. He hurriedly coughed twice and forcefully squeezed out a smile. This little bird might be the pet of one of the 10 kings. It is here to give us some hints. Cough, yes, it must be that. He did not dare to imagine the serious consequences if his blood sacrifice runic formation was not completed and the space-time vortex swallowed the 10 Heaven Realm kings. Although it was no longer a problem to go to Tong Tian Tower from the Heaven Realm, especially with this receiving runic blood formation, it greatly increased the success rate of teleportation. Originally, the space-time crack and space-time vortex swallowed more than half of the stowaways. With this receiving runic blood formation, at least 70% of the people could pass through. Martial world warriors with the strength of a king could pass through safely as high as 90%. Originally, this was the best task. As long as the 10 kings arrived safely, their task would be completed. The higher-ups would reward them according to their contributions. There would be great rewards. However, after the receiving runic blood formation was constructed, only a small seabird was teleported over. What was going on? All the leaders who participated in this task felt that the situation was not good. Where did the 10 kings go? If the 10 kings were all swallowed by the space-time vortex, the consequences would be unimaginable. Not only was this mission fruitless, but it was also a mistake. The higher-ups would definitely investigate who was responsible, and all the participants would be severely punished. The leader of the lion-headed people did not expect this. His heart shuddered, but he forced a smile on the surface. The runic blood formation will not be able to respond so quickly. In a few hours, the 10 lords won't be able to come over. What I mean is that our runic blood formation has not failed and is still effective. I estimate that the 10 lords of kingdoms are rushing over, and we still have to defend here for more than 3 hours. Cough, cough, what I really mean is that our blood formation has not failed, and this little bird was sent by one of the lords to tell us not to be anxious. What do you guys think? But this little bird, the sharp-nosed, fanged leader, couldn't figure out why this little seabird could teleport over in an instant. Even if they were sent by a king, there was no reason for them to arrive so quickly. Could be a little pet sent by a king to scout ahead? A tall and skinny leader asked tentatively. It must be. The leader of the Lion Man mask quickly confirmed it and controlled the situation that was about to collapse. Since it's a spiritual bird sent to scout ahead, then teleporting over in an instant can be explained. A leader with 3 heads and 6 arms nervously wiped his sweat and agreed. He also didn't wish for the misfortune of the 10 lords to be annihilated during his mission. This kind of sin, no matter how many heads they had, it would not be enough to behead them. I'm 100% sure that this little bird came from the Heaven Realm and not from Tong Tian Tower. I have never seen such an intelligent light in the eyes of a little bird before. If it wasn't a lord's spiritual bird, how could there be such a spiritual pet in this world? In a remote and desolate place like Tong Tian Tower, other than country bumpkins and country bumpkins, there are no other specialties worth mentioning. The leader, who was the shortest but had the most robust muscles, looked like a ball of muscles. When he saw that the terrifying scene had been explained back to him by his companions, he immediately felt relieved. He laughed loudly, releasing the fear and uneasiness in his heart. Haha, if that's the case, the 10 lords of kingdoms will definitely arrive on time. The sharp-nosed, fanged leader quickly agreed. Even if it's delayed, the 10 lords of kingdoms will still be safe and sound. With the help of his companions, the lion-headed leader explained even more perfectly. It's highly possible that the 10 lords of kingdoms have foreseen a certain possibility, so they sent a spiritual bird at the last minute to give us a hint, telling us not to wait too long, because they might act according to their new plan. Then, are we still waiting? The leader with 3 heads and 6 arms nervously wiped the sweat on his middle head, looking at his companions with hope. Wait. The lion-headed leader made the final decision. Regardless of whether the 10 lords of kingdoms will arrive on time or not, we have to fulfill our duties. If the 10 lords of kingdoms have not arrived after 3 hours, then they must have gone to carry out a new mission. We will follow this little spiritual bird's hint and retreat first, waiting for the 10 lords of kingdoms to summon us and carry out their next mission. Yes, that's right. Well said. When the other leaders heard this, they all clapped their hands in agreement. The 10 Heaven Realm Lords died in a teleportation error. This kind of thing, not only could they not do it, even if they did it, they cannot say it. In fact, everyone had a vague consensus, and that was that the 10 Lords of Kingdoms, regardless of whether they had clearly sensed the runic blood formation or whether they had already set off, the ending would not be too good. Because of the interference of this little seabird's teleportation, the 10 Lords of Kingdoms who were lagging far behind would not be able to accurately pass through the space-time cracks and space-time whirlpools in the space-time tunnel and successfully land on this small island. It was not impossible, but the probability was too low, probably not even 1 in 10,000. The truth was so cruel, but they definitely could not say it out. Otherwise, everyone's heads would not be able to rest on their necks anymore. That was a total of 10 Heaven Realm Lords. In the early stages of the Heaven Realm Army's invasion, there were less than 100 Heaven Realm Lords leading them. A single mistake had caused the deaths of 10 Heaven Realm Kings. No one could afford to bear this sin. Even if it was any of the 10 Heaven Realm Kings, they had to consume a huge amount of resources and human lives in order to teleport to the Heaven Realm Gate from the faraway central shrine. In order to fight for enough time for the punitive army behind them, every lord had to consume a huge amount of resources in the interdomain teleportation guided by the divine light. Not to mention other things, just the number of slaves that were sacrificed was more than 10,000. This mistake not only caused the death of 10 lords, it also caused the loss of millions of slaves. Most importantly, this failure could lead to a disadvantageous situation in the early stages of the war, as well as tilting the balance between the two sides. Even a fool would not admit that such a terrible mistake was their own doing. Currently, they had to find the most suitable reason to justify themselves. That was a must. Otherwise, the whole army would immediately collapse and everyone would kill each other. Then, they would flee for their lives, never daring to return to the Heaven Realm again. The 10 Lords of Kingdoms will definitely arrive on time. However, before that, we have to strengthen the effect of the sacrifice. The lion-headed man-faced leader decided to kill all the slaves, leaving only a few companions. Then, everyone would unite and find a strong warrior from Tong Tian Tower to interfere with them at the right time, or find a better reason to cover up the inconceivable mistake of teleporting a wind-breath seabird out of nowhere. Spare us. All the slaves were so scared that they peed their pants. One by one, they knelt down and cowed out. They were not fools. They knew what this mistake meant. For example, these few city lords who had caused the death of 10 Lords of Kingdoms, they definitely wanted to silence them. The few leaders looked at each other and silently exchanged their opinions. They felt that it was better to kill all the slaves, because no matter how loyal a slave was, it could not be compared to a dead one. Just as they were preparing to exterminate these pitiful Heaven Realm slaves, the wind-breath seabird, whose body was covered in sand, finally caught its breath. It used its wings to support itself and stood up with great difficulty. Although it was still a little unstable, it managed to stand firmly in the end. Towards this little bird that did not know how to speak, the few Heaven Realm leaders felt that their lives were tied to it. If the 10 Lords of Kingdoms were really that lucky and successfully arrived, then naturally everyone would be happy. If by any chance they did not arrive on time, then they would have to push the responsibility onto the warriors of Tong Tian Tower. Then they would hold this wind-breath seabird that came out of nowhere and report it to their superiors, saying that it was a messenger sent by one of the Lords of Kingdoms at the critical moment of being attacked in the space passage. Catch this little thing. The leader of the lion-head face hurriedly signaled to his companions not to let this life-saving little bird escape, otherwise everyone would be finished. Catch your sister, catch. A clear female voice rang out, causing everyone present to be dumbfounded. Who said that? It seemed like, could it be that this little seabird that was about to die said that? This little thing could speak? Oh no, if it could speak, then everyone would definitely be finished. Regardless of whether it was a spiritual bird of one of the 10 Lords, as long as it could speak, the higher-ups would ask, and everything would be clear. This responsibility could not be pushed away even if they wanted to. The most terrifying thing was that if it was a spiritual bird belonging to one of the kings, even if its owner successfully teleported over, because of this mistake, the whole team would lose their lives, and they would definitely die in the hands of the 10 angry kings. The lion-headed human-faced leader and his companions looked at each other and realized that everyone's faces were deathly pale. He quickly made a decision and waved his hand, pointing at the battered and exhausted wind-breath seabird. Kill it. A dead bird is better than a live one. Only a dead bird will not talk nonsense. You're the dead bird, idiot. The wind-breath seabird cursed back. Just as the lion-head leader was about to attack, it nodded its head lightly, and a silver grimoire appeared in the air. A brilliant light shot up to the sky, and a protective shield expanded in all directions. A small white hippopotamus jumped out from the brilliant light. Once it landed on the ground, it immediately rushed over and intimately sniffed the dispirited wind-breath seabird. Hey, you actually have a summoning grimoire? Moreover, it's a silver grimoire. The Lion Man and the other leaders were flabbergasted. Was this a dream? A mere little seabird also had a summoning grimoire? How could the Heaven Realm warriors, who had never seen a summoning grimoire after training for hundreds of years, endure this? In the Heaven Realm, there were countless warriors who did not have a summoning grimoire. Who would have thought that a little bird would successfully contract one? Was there still justice in this world? Moreover, this summoning grimoire was a silver grimoire. Even many of the Heaven Realm kings did not have such a high-level grimoire. Were you sure you were not showing off? The few Heaven Realm leaders couldn't help but want to ridicule it like this. At the same time, they felt that something was wrong. With a summoning grimoire, how could they kill it? It could enter the grimoire in the blink of an eye. What would happen now? Just when they felt helpless and resigned to their fate, the silver grimoire shone brightly once again. A few men with clothes that were even more tattered than a beggar's jumped out of thin air. Before they even landed on the ground, they saw a skinny man angrily grabbing onto a fat man who looked so wretched that anyone who looked at him would want to slap him. Without saying a word, the skinny man pressed the fat man onto the ground and beat him up. Two identical twin brothers quickly joined in, beating the fatty until he covered his head and scurried away like a rat. What were they trying to do? The few Heaven Realm leaders felt that their brains were not enough to process this. Who were they? Why did they suddenly appear here? Why did they want to kill each other? If these people passed through the spatial crack and successfully teleported here from the Heaven Realm gate, then what about the 10 Kingdom Kings? Where did the 10 Kingdom Kings go to? Hit him. That damned fatty. I told you not to start a fight in the spatial passageway. It's already dangerous enough. With our strength, it's already difficult enough to pass through carefully. Yet, he just had a court death and launch a sneak attack. As a result, the battle got out of hand and almost caused the entire spatial passageway to collapse. If it weren't for the energy guiding us, we would have all been wiped out. A tall beauty, standing barefoot on the beach, pointed angrily at the fatty and scolded furiously. She scolded the fatty until he was bleeding profusely. Where did this girl come from? The few Heaven Realm leaders were dumbfounded. Just now, there was clearly no such tall, barefooted girl with wings on her back. Just now, there were only 6 people. One was fat, and one was skinny, 2 were twin brothers, and there was also a kid who ignored everything. Once he landed on the ground, he immediately sat cross-legged and adjusted his breathing, as if he was invisible to everyone present. The last one was a young man who was covered with cuts and bruises. His clothes were torn and tattered, but he still maintained his gentlemanly demeanor. With one look, one could tell that he was a well-educated, noble child. Other than these 6 people, where did this winged beauty come from? I'm wronged. I really didn't know that guy's strength was hidden so deeply. I thought, after killing so many Heaven Realm soldiers, it wouldn't make much of a difference, right? How would I know that that sinister guy was the deputy palace master of the Central Shrine? In fact, I was also a victim. I was tricked by that guy. I didn't expect that he looked honest and sincere, but he was actually as treacherous as a ghost. Moreover, he even had the ability to distort space. I really didn't have the intention to die. Think about it. I still have so much youth that I haven't even enjoyed for a single day. I still have my virginity that I haven't squandered. I can't bear to die. I was really tricked by him." With tears streaming down his face, Fatty apologized to the winged beauty whose hair was stained with sand and begged for forgiveness. "Get away from me. It's best if you die early and reincarnate." The barefooted beauty sent the Fatty flying with a kick. With a hong sound, the Fatty fell into the sea, creating a large splash. "Wait a minute. Can you tell us what exactly happened?" The few Heaven Realm leaders felt very confused. Their brains were a little insufficient to process everything. What exactly was this situation? In their entire lives, inconceivable things that had never happened before had all happened today. Suddenly, what was going on? We only built a runic blood array on this small island. We didn't even have time to do anything. How did it become like this? Chapter 1220. The lion-faced Heaven Realm leader looked at the situation. He felt that the ice cube man who sat cross-legged and adjusted his breathing as if there was no one else around was not easy to deal with. That polite, noble young master who could still maintain a smile, even though he was covered in cuts and bruises, was also not a simple person. The twin brothers had too much chemistry. Moreover, there were two of them. If they wanted to capture them as hostages, it would not be easy. Moreover, their positions were obviously lower. They were probably the guards of that noble young master. Even if they had them in their hands, they would not be of much value. The tall beauty did not know where she came from. He could not act rashly. Finally, there were only two targets left. There were only two. One was the skinny one who attacked. The other was the fat one who was attacked. The two of them seemed to have almost the same level of strength. However, the skinny one was much better than the fat one in terms of temperament and fighting spirit. The fat one was simply a pile of mud that could not be helped up the wall. "Do it!" The lion-faced Heaven Realm leader exchanged a look with his companions. They unanimously decided to capture the fat one as a hostage. Boom, 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 boom. At the moment when his companions had released dozens of fist auras to cover him, the Heaven Realm leader with a lion's head and a human face leaped high up like a goshawk pouncing on its prey. He flew down and grabbed the fatty who had just popped his head out of the sea. Although he was big, his movements were not only agile, his techniques were gorgeous and practical. The fat one who was captured did not even have the time to struggle before he was lifted up and thrown to the side of the runic blood formation. He skillfully threw him to the feet of the few Heaven Realm leaders. If you don't want him to die miserably in front of you, then try and move. The lion-faced Heaven Realm leader was very proud of himself. He had succeeded in one strike and showed his face in front of his companions. Originally, he thought that would be a little difficult. He did not expect it to go so smoothly. "I dare say that I have 100 ways to keep him alive until he is broken," the tall and skinny Heaven Realm leader added. "What I like the most is to break the bones of the hostages bit by bit." The ball-shaped, muscular demon leader waved the golden horned hammer in his hands, showing that he had a lot of experience in torturing people. "Don't waste the broken bones. I just happened to raise a Taba dog. It loves to gnaw on human bones." The sharp-nosed and fanged Heaven Realm leader also showed that he was not a kind person. In this world, other than good deeds, there was nothing he did not dare to do. In order to increase his persuasiveness, he summoned a Heaven Stage Level 3 Python-tailed Taba. The Python-tailed Taba was a type of extremely greedy and ferocious giant dog breed in the Heaven Realm. The adult beast's head and tail were more than 20 meters long, and its shoulder height was 8 meters. That mouth dripping venom. One mouthful, it could swallow a bison or a rhinoceros. The most frightening thing was that this kind of python-tailed Taba did not have any pain nerves, and its body's self-healing ability was extremely good. Therefore, once it started fighting, it would not stop until the enemy fell. It was one of the more notorious evil beasts in the Heaven Realm. Of course, it could not be compared to the Heaven Realm giant dragon, Hell Hydra, and the other 10 great berserk beasts. However, in the eyes of the Heaven Realm's commoners, this kind of Taba dog was a commonly seen and terrifying beast. With his status as a city lord, he was able to get his hands on a special variant python-tailed taba. Moreover, it was not easy to reach Heaven Stage Level 3. If not for this python-tailed taba, suppressing many of his competitors, the sharp-nosed and fanged Heaven Realm leader might not even be able to take up the position of the elite squad leader. As soon as the python-tailed taba came out, it opened its mouth and started to eat. In the blink of an eye, it had already swallowed 2 slaves beside it. Perhaps it felt that eating like this was not bloody enough, not exciting enough. Its front claws pressed down on a few slaves, its mouth full of sharp teeth biting them one by one, biting off half of their bodies. It proudly enjoyed the pain and pleasure of blood spurting out. The tail behind it was a python. It aimed at the fatty with a hissing sound, as if it was preparing to swallow him in one bite. An extremely acidic, poisonous saliva dripped from the snake's mouth, splashing into the sand, making sizzling sounds and emitting black smoke. "I surrender." The fatty raised his hands high, indicating that he was willing to be a good citizen, to serve the Heaven Realm's righteous army, and to be a qualified and loyal guide. "I haven't asked you yet." The lion-faced Heaven Realm leader was furious. "There is no need for you to surrender now. Your role now is to be an unyielding hostage, making it difficult for your companions to harden their hearts and watch them die. Who allowed you to surrender now? Who allowed you to surrender?" "Sir, there's no need to ask. I have already decided. When the Imperial Army arrives, I will immediately pledge allegiance to the Imperial Army. My loyalty will not change for at least 100 years. The fatty's face was full of seriousness. "You are not allowed to surrender. We will not accept scum like you." The lion-faced Heaven Realm leader was furious. "If you surrender, you are no longer a hostage. How are you going to threaten the young men and women in front of you?" The fatty was stunned. There was actually a principle in this world that did not allow surrendering. If it was any other time, the few Heaven Realm leaders would definitely not mind making such a contribution. It was such a rare thing for someone to surrender in Tong Tian Tower. One had to know that although the strength of the country bumpkins in Tong Tian Tower was terrible, they had a stubborn temper. After entering Tong Tian Tower for so long, they had killed tens of thousands of people. Whether they were nobles or servants, warriors or commoners, they had yet to find a single person who was willing to surrender. No matter how scared or how painful the captured and killed hostages were, these country bumpkins would rather die than surrender, especially those old men who looked old and crippled. They were even more stubborn. Once they were captured, they would immediately self-destruct and perish together with the enemy. They would never abandon the battle or wait helplessly for death. However, the current situation was a complete mess. Even if their brains were cramping, they still couldn't figure out what was going on. Surrendering was temporarily not acceptable. First, according to the original plan, they would turn this fatty into a captive and hostage. Then, they would threaten his companions. It would not be too late to consider whether to accept surrendering or not. The lion-faced Heaven Realm leader stood up and coughed. He hoped that the young men and women in front of him did not hear the fatty's conversation just now. Otherwise, things would really be difficult to handle. He first covered the fatty's mouth and lifted him up like a little chick. Then, he shouted towards the skinny guy, "Listen, your companion fatty is in my hands. If you don't want us to dig out his heart and skin him alive, then stand up straight and listen carefully. I think it's better for this trash fatty to die as soon as possible." The tall beauty asked for her companion's opinion. Agreed. The twin brother was a man of few words. Since he has decided to surrender, then he is a traitor. If he is a traitor, then it doesn't seem to have anything to do with us. Everyone nodded in agreement. There was no reason for the other party to threaten a hateful traitor. There was no reason for them to surrender. Fatty has become a traitor. It's impossible to save him. We should kill him. Moreover, I don't think we should just kill him normally. That would be too easy on him. We should grind his bones and scatter his ashes into the sea. Then, we should let the fish and prawns eat him. We should make him disappear from this world forever, as if he had never been born. The skinny guy clenched his teeth. The more he spoke, the angrier he got. Moreover, this is not enough. I want to catch the fish and prawns, burn them, or fry them in oil. Then I will eat them all. Then I will let the fatty exist in the state of feces forever. I want the world to see that this is the consequence of being a traitor. This is the consequence of being a coward who defected to the enemy in order to seek glory and wealth. You idiot, it's easy for you to say that. If you're caught by someone and there's a big snake hissing in front of you, licking your face with its tongue sticking out and retracting, I think you'll surrender faster than this young master. What do you try to show off for? Aren't you the same as me? Do you think you could be a hero by hiding behind other people's butts? Sooner or later, you will be caught. At that time, you'll have to call me boss. Otherwise, I will not accept your surrender. The fatty scolded. As a traitor, you still dare to be arrogant? The skinny guy was furious. He pounced forward and raised his fist. Stop. The Heaven Realm leader, with a lion head and a human face, was ecstatic. He stretched out his hand. He caught both the skinny guy and the fatty at the same time. The fatty obediently listened and immediately stopped moving. He was even more obedient than the servants in his house. On the contrary, the skinny guy was more stubborn. After suffering a few heavy punches, he continued to struggle. If not for the fact that the skinny guy was too weak, he might not be able to catch him. The Heaven Realm leader, with a lion head and a human face, was secretly pleased. Suddenly, he heard a loud roar. Be careful of a sneak attack. He turned around and saw that the ice cube guy who had been sitting cross-legged was attacking him like lightning. There was no time to dodge. He stretched out his hand and pushed the fatty forward. He was only grazed by the punch. His whole body was instantly covered with a layer of frost, especially the right arm that was holding the fatty. Together with the fatty's body, they were all frozen. After being kicked, the Heaven Realm leader with a lion head and a human face spat out blood. When the blood splattered on the ground, it had already turned into blood ice. If not for his companion's timely rescue, the Heaven Realm leader with a lion head and a human face suspected that he would have died from the opponent's continuous attacks. The two Heaven Realm leaders with sharp noses and sharp fangs and 3 heads and 6 arms staggered a few steps back. The expressions of the two Heaven Realm leaders with a human body and the tall and skinny guy changed at the same time. This was because both of their legs had been frozen on the ground. The Heaven Realm leader, with a lion head and a human face, felt that his hands were empty. The skinny guy had already been snatched away by the ice cube guy. Such a strong ice cube guy was basically invincible. But everyone could see that. This brat was just an arrow at the end of its flight. He must have been seriously injured before. It was so serious that he could not hold on any longer. To be able to snatch back the skinny guy was already his limit. If he had held on for another minute, this brat would have collapsed. Oomph. The ice cube guy reached out his hand and summoned a platinum grimoire. The Heaven Realm leaders were so scared that they almost peed their pants. Fortunately, this brat was heavily injured. Otherwise, they would have been completely annihilated. The attack on a Vice Palace Master was probably done by this brat. Just now, they seemed to have said that they had killed a Vice Palace Master in the spatial passage. It seemed like it was not a lie or a threat. Let's go back and rest. After we recover, we'll take care of this group of bastards. The tall beauty, the little hippopotamus with a silver-white neck ring, the skinny guy, the twin brothers, and the noble young master all entered the ice cube guy's platinum grimoire. Before he left, the Iceman flicked out a gust of wind from his finger, wanting to kill the frozen fatty in an instant. Fortunately, the python-tailed Taba blocked in front of him and spat out a ball of thick flame. It blocked the finger wind. In the end, what made everyone dumbstruck was that the seemingly ordinary finger wind actually froze the ball of thick flame in the Heaven Stage Level 3 python-tailed Taba. If not for the sharp nose and fangs of the Heaven Realm leader's timely rescue, this Heaven Stage Level 3 dog would have turned into an ice sculpture. If the ice cube guy was allowed to adjust, then everyone present would die without a burial ground. Fortunately, there was a good reason to retreat now. Finally, someone had surrendered to justice. The Heaven Realm army finally had someone to lead the way. Although it was a fatty with trash fighting strength, it was still a good start. It was better than nothing. Just as the few Heaven Realm leaders were preparing to bring this precious trash fatty back to the secret camp and report to their superiors, suddenly, three incomparably huge forces descended and suppressed the entire place. The few Heaven Realm leaders who were about to soar into the sky were all pressed back to the ground and firmly nailed into the ground. No one was able to move an inch. I know that I can't place high hopes on some trash. However, I really didn't expect that after arranging it countless times and making it so simple, it still wouldn't be able to succeed. Sometimes, I really want to know what's going on in the brains of those stupid people. Why are they stupid to such an extent? It's fine if they're not aware of their stupidity and are not ashamed of it. They even think that they are smart and think that they're the smartest in the world. I really can't imagine why there are such people in the world. Other than making people angry, what value does this kind of person have in this world? Among the three, the leader was a tall and handsome young man. If the people of the world had never seen a god before, but when they raised their heads to look at this young man, they would discover that this young man's appearance and bearing were very close to the standard of a god in their hearts. Your Highness, when the Lion Man and the other Heaven Realm leaders saw this person, they were immediately stunned. No, please don't call me Your Highness. This godlike man shook his head and waved his hands. I don't have subordinates like you. If I did, I would have long felt guilty and ashamed. If I had subordinates like you, who are 10,000 times more stupid than pigs, how would I have the face to see people? Maybe I would commit suicide. At the very least, I would be disfigured. Otherwise, I would not be able to forgive myself. I told you to come here and set up a support runic array, and you brought the enemy back, throwing the 10 kings into the space-time vortex. That's fine, but did I say that you would accept an enemy who is a few hundred times stronger than you, but disguised as a useless fatty, to go back and destroy the temporary camp that we had spent so much effort to set up? Did I ask you to do anything other than the receiving runic array? No. Then why did you think that you were smart and help me solve some tasks that you would never be able to do? You did not do anything, but you have already helped me the most. Can't you give me a little bit of peace of mind? You will never know how many protectors there are in this damned Tong Tian Tower and how terrifying it is. With your intelligence, you will never be able to think of how this country bumpkin could give birth to someone who could compete with the temple. You don't know anything, but you want to help me solve the tasks that you should not be doing, that you do not need to do, and that you have no right to do. Before I lose control of my anger, immediately scram. Scram as far away as you can. It will be best if you never appear in front of me again. Listen up, don't let anyone look at me with that kind of idiotic eyes. Don't let anyone make an idiotic sound that makes me want to vomit and call me Your Highness. Scram. Before the lion-headed man and the other Heaven Realm leaders could react, the fatty who had been frozen into a popsicle moved. He was as fast as lightning. However, unfortunately, there were three figures that were faster than lightning blocking the fatty's path. With a raise of their hands, a destructive beam of light shot out. With an earth-shattering sound, more than half of the island was turned into nothingness. Even a large wave behind it was directly vaporized, leaving behind a huge trench that took a long time to heal. What made the lion-headed man and the other Heaven Realm leaders' jaws drop to the ground was the fatty who looked like a piece of trash just now. He was actually standing in the center of the beam of light attack. He only used his hands to block it. He dispersed the beam of light in a fan-shaped way, eliminating the destructive power. A large area behind the fatty had disappeared, leaving behind a deep fan-shaped beach. The fatty, who looked like he would fly away with a sneeze, except for his clothes that had turned to ash, stood upright like a martial god. He was as strong as a mountain. It was as if even the entire world's power would not be able to shake him at all. Was this really the damn fatty who begged for mercy and surrendered himself to the Heaven Realm? Impossible. There must be a mistake somewhere. The lion-headed man, sharp-nosed man with fangs, three-headed man with 6 arms, and the other Heaven Realm leaders felt that their minds were in a mess. Their thoughts were so stiff that they could not move. Standing in front of the fatty were the 3 people who had suppressed everyone. The young man in the middle had a slight smile on his face. His demeanor was like that of a god. If I am not wrong, you're the second genius of Tong Tian Tower, the mountain of flesh great demon king. Haida Fu. The fatty laughed as soon as he heard that. His laughter was incomparably irritating. You said that this young master is the second genius of Tong Tian Tower. I don't really object to that, because as a big boss, letting your little brother be the #1 genius is to encourage your little brother's confidence. That shows that I, as a big boss, am magnanimous, broad-minded, noble, and humble. However, calling me the mountain of flesh great demon king is definitely a big mistake. For a handsome young man like me, other than the title of Jade-Faced Little Flying Dragon, any other title would seem weak and shallow. If not for the fact that this is the first time we have met, and that you are quite polite, I would have sued you for slander. Next time, please don't do it. One must be down to earth and tell the truth. Even if you are jealous of my handsome appearance, you can't deliberately slander me, right? Actually, I've always been a very low-key person, and I've never cared about fame or fortune. If you don't believe me, you can go to a deserted place and ask around. Although I, young Master Hai, have always been a silent, practical, righteous, and warm-hearted person, I've always been a man of indomitable spirit, a real man, and a true hero. If you don't believe me, then let me stab you a few times. I guarantee that you will immediately know what kind of person I am. As the three people in front of him listened, they were unknowingly petrified by this shameless fatty. They really couldn't bear to see the fatty's arrogant appearance. On the young man's left, there was an elegant middle-aged man with an elegant temperament like a scholar. He couldn't help but say, "These words sound like what your third young master you would say, right?" If it was someone else, they would naturally feel ashamed. However, it was Fatty Hai who was so thick-skinned that he didn't take it seriously at all. He even waved his hand casually. That brat's way of speaking is quite unique. It gives people a deep impression, but it was all taught by me, the boss. Meeting such a shameless fellow, who could do anything to him? People who are the most shameless are invincible. This sentence was not wrong at all. Chapter 12:21. Yu Yang woke up from his dream and sat up. What's wrong? Aquamarine, who was sleeping soundly, was also woken up and asked lazily. I had a dream. Yu Yang tried hard to recall, but he couldn't remember anything after he woke up. He frowned. In the dream, I seemed to have returned to Tong Tian Tower. No, there seemed to be a voice calling me. Then I returned to Tong Tian Tower. Maybe it was calling me back to Tong Tian Tower. I was very clear in the dream. Why did I forget it when I woke up? Go to sleep. Aquamarine guessed that Yu Yang might have been affected by the previous hard battle and the huge pressure from the evil deities Wei Guang. So she comforted Yu Yang. Rest well and recover as soon as possible. We will support you fully. But Yu Yang had an indescribable feeling, as if there was something he needed to do urgently, but he had forgotten about it. Perplexed, the guy from another world fell asleep once again. In his dream, he could still feel a voice. It was calling him from afar. He searched along the way. He wanted to find out who was calling him, but no matter how he tried, he couldn't find a trace of it. When he woke up again, his consciousness was still a little hazy, but he quickly reacted, shocking the people around him. At this time, it was already crowded with people. Sickly Beauty, Yu, Drunken Cat, Princess Sisai, and the others were all there. Even the Impatiens and the Southern Demon King were sitting in front of the bed. Everyone was watching a certain embarrassed Yu Yang without blinking. Because he had done something that was good for his body and mind before he slept, Yu Yang did not have any clothes on him. His entire body was naked. Fortunately, he had a thin blanket to cover himself. Otherwise, Yu Yang would have to find a hole to hide in under the gaze of so many people. Why are you guys here? Yu Yang quickly wrapped himself in the blanket, afraid that the mischievous Southern Demon King or the Impatiens would pull on him. Aquamarine said that your mind is not at peace, and you keep talking in your sleep. She is very worried about you, so we came to take a look. Sickly Beauty was the most gentle of them all. Not only did she take out a handkerchief to wipe away Yu Yang's sweat, she even gave him a cup of tea to quench his thirst. It's just a dream. Yu Yang pretended to be relaxed and took a big gulp. But you've been dreaming for a day and a night, and it seems to be very painful. You've been talking in your sleep, and we can't understand what you're saying. We can barely hear things like burning and war, but it's all about fighting and killing. Who are you fighting with in your dream? Drunken Cat asked in confusion. Originally, everyone was connected by the soul ribbon, and their hearts were connected. However, they couldn't feel a strange dream like this. They could feel Yu Yang's confusion and uneasiness, but they couldn't clearly sense what was happening in his dream. Yu Yang tried his best to recall. He realized that he had once again forgotten about the dream world, which was very clear in his dream. Originally, he was trying hard to remember something very important, and it seemed that he had been repeatedly reminded in his dream to remember it. However, when he woke up, he had completely forgotten about it. Inan isn't here. Otherwise, with the soul mirror, she might know something. Princess Sisai wanted to talk about Shui Wuxia the most. If she had her book of truth and the telepathy that was closest to Yu Yang's, she would definitely be able to figure out what was going on. Because of Yu Yang's abnormal reaction, everyone was a little suspicious. Could it be that the evil deities, Wei Guang, was playing tricks? Could it be that the evil deities, Wei Guang, was using some kind of method to influence Yu Yang? If it affected Yu Yang's state, then the evil deities, Wei Guang, would undoubtedly have an advantage in the upcoming battle. However, there was one thing. What method did the evil deities, Wei Guang, use to influence Yu Yang? Yu Yang stayed in his own grimoire world. Moreover, he had entered Aquamarine's grimoire world later on. No matter how strong the evil deities, Wei Guang, there was no way he could influence other people's grimoire world, right? That was the supreme law that even the gods could not influence. It was created by the ancient gods, an existence that could not be destroyed or changed by any willpower. If it was not the evil deities, Wei Guang, who could it be? And who could make Yu Yang, a quasi-god level ranker who could stay awake even in dreams, wander around in nightmares again and again? Everyone fell into deep thought. Because of this strange incident, Yu Yang's original plan to help Qing Ping reconstruct the perfect body was interrupted. Fortunately, Qing Ping, who was still lying in the mother-of-pearl shell, quietly recovering, was also at a loss. Otherwise, she would definitely be very disappointed. This was because she was looking forward to reuniting with the big pervert in her heart. Undoubtedly, even her neck was stretched out. No matter what, I must kill the evil deities, Wei Guang. Yu Yang did not let this matter affect him. Instead, his fighting spirit increased 100 times. The reward of the trial ground was not the grimoire. It was not something that could be obtained just because one wanted it. The divine equipment chose its master. The grimoire was even more so. No one in the world could force it. Yu Yang's biggest gain from the trial grounds was the realizations he gained every time he tried to break through. From the 4th stage, the Valley of Desire, to the 7th stage, the Human Valley, every stage had given him different life experiences and realizations. The one that had the deepest impact on him, and was also the one that he had unconsciously gained, was the 3 little Lolas in the Silver Grimoire's endless world: creation, destruction, and eternity. They had enlightened Yu Yang and told him the true truth, allowing him to understand for the first time what true creation was, what true destruction was, and what true eternity was. Warriors who did not understand this truth, no matter how powerful they were in the God realm, no matter how strong they were just like floating dust in the air. They were simply passers-by of time, not worth mentioning at all. It was also because of their enlightenment, coupled with the guidance of the heavenly sword goddess, and Princess Sisai and the others who accompanied him all the way. Yu Yang was only a quasi-god level ranker, a transcendent god level will, and a strength that he himself could not determine. He killed the mysterious man who was so strong that he had never seen before. The mysterious man was a powerful person of the same generation as the temple master of the central shrine, Tianyu. Even Ji Wuri, the favored son of heaven, was beaten like a dead dog in front of him. Of course, killing the mysterious man, Yu Yong did not think that he could control his true strength. He mainly relied on his various trump cards, especially the Giant of Fate. It was still too early to challenge the mysterious man, let alone kill him. This bitter battle also made Yu Yong realize the gap between him and those old farts. Whether it was the demonic dragon that was considered stupid by the three little Lolas, creation, destruction, and eternity, or the central shrine's #1 wisdom, East, or the temple master Tianyu, or even the peerless emperor who was still locked in a seal, or the evil deities Wei Guang, who was about to start a battle, and so on and so forth. These old farts, whether they were enemies or friends, strangers or potential threats, if they were opponents in front of him or future goals, he could not be sure. These old farts were all peak rankers that Yu Yong could not surpass for the time being. If he wanted to catch up to these old farts and challenge them, he would have to put in more time and more effort. Let's start training. I'll fight with you first. Princess Qian seemed to have forgotten about Yu Yang's embarrassing act of spanking her, but in public. The current her looked at Yu Yong, who was full of fighting spirit. She did not say it out loud, but in her heart, she absolutely approved of him. This man who would never retreat, who would always challenge the limits of martial arts, and whose fighting spirit dared to compete with the heavens, was what she wanted to see the most in her heart. At the same time, he was also the greatest pride in her life. Okay. Yu Yong jumped up excitedly, his head held high and his chest out, his fighting spirit soaring. He completely forgot that he was in the state of truth. He jumped up. The blanket slid down from his body, revealing his true form. Drunken Cat was stunned. Southern Demon King covered her mouth and giggled. Impatience gave him a thumbs up. Princess Sisai turned around and walked away. She was completely speechless towards a certain wolf. Yu covered her forehead, feeling a headache for this rash brother of hers. This was not the first time. Lu Yi, who was sitting at the corner, was so embarrassed that her face turned red. She covered her small face, not daring to take another look. Xia Yi, who was originally very calm about Yu Yang's nightmare, was now dumbfounded by the sudden appearance of a certain powerful and murderous being in front of her. She opened her mouth wide, unable to close it for a long time. It was no wonder, because from her current angle, she could see everything clearly. Only the most gentle, sickly beauty and the most obedient Xiaonu did not forget to pick up the blanket and clothes to cover him, slightly dispelling this suffocating, awkward atmosphere. Tong Tian Tower. First floor, soaring dragon continent, Tian Luo Palace. None of the guards guarding outside the palace saw anything. Even the most loyal and vigilant General Qian Mu, who was on duty, did not notice anything unusual. Only when His Majesty's maid was about to go out to serve food did she realize that there were two strangers standing outside the palace. Normally, even Yu Yong, who was known by everyone in the palace as the Yu clan's third young master, who often disturbed His Majesty, was not allowed to enter this place without permission. But today, there were two strangers who came unannounced. It was really unexpected for the people in the palace. To be able to hide from the guards, General Qian Mu, and the guards in the palace, they were two strangers who came to His Majesty's living hall without anyone noticing. Obviously, they were not weaklings. As a palace maid who served His Majesty, she had the best upbringing in the world. After the shock, she did not panic and yell for the assassins, nor did she rush back to protect her master. Instead, she adjusted her state of mind and showed a polite smile on her face. She gently bowed to the two strangers. At the same time, she did not forget her task and continued to send messages to His Majesty. Leaving behind these two people who were unknown, whether they were assassins or visitors, she quickly and calmly left. At this time, the maids in the palace and far away also noticed the abnormality. Similarly, they did not panic. After being shocked, they reacted the same way as the maid from before. They busied themselves with their work, as if the two strangers did not exist. Mr. Chunyu, after seeing this scene, I really feel that the maids in my house should learn and improve. What is upbringing? What is bearing? What is etiquette? What is spirituality? This is it. I think, in the world, only here can there be such intelligent beauties. Standing slightly in front was a middle-aged man in a white robe. This person had delicate features and was strangely elegant. With one look, one could tell that he was a learned scholar who had read extensively and knew everything in the world. His deep eyes shone with an indescribable light of wisdom. Let alone ordinary people, even famous people in the world, if they saw this pair of eyes, they would feel ashamed of their inferiority. He did not seem to have any martial power, but just a pair of eyes could make people feel that he had the greatest power in the world. This kind of knowledge and wisdom that surpassed all things in the world. Other than this scholar, no one could possess it. Even the old man with white hair and a youthful face who stood beside this middle-aged scholar was also an elder of wisdom. But because he stood beside this bright scholar, the starlight immediately dimmed, and people almost completely ignored him. This kind of wisdom was not just knowledge, not just bearing, it was also a kind of power. A kind of power that everything in the world could not escape from the palm of one's hand. The two of you came from thousands of miles away just to discuss my mates. His Majesty's voice was dreamy and illusory, like the sound of spring water in an ethereal valley. Of course, not just for this. The old man with white hair and a youthful face, who was called Mr. Chunyu by the middle-aged scholar, laughed out loud. I have long heard that your Majesty is good at creating things in the dream realm. Mirage is wonderful. I am also a person who likes to dream, so I came from thousands of miles away to discuss with your Majesty about the dreams that ordinary people are confused about. I hope your Majesty will not be stingy with your advice. Chapter 1222. Dream. His Majesty's voice was neither happy nor angry. It was as clear as a spring on a rock and as warm as a piece of jade. Why don't you listen to my story first? Ha ha, tell a story. Yes, this is a good time to tell a story. The white-haired old man who was addressed as Mr. Chunyu laughed heartily. He stroked his beard and said in a carefree manner, "How many people in this world can listen to your Majesty's story? To have such luck, we should celebrate. It seems that this trip of thousands of miles has not been in vain." The middle-aged scholar's expression was slightly startled when he heard this, but he quickly recovered. His sleeves were folded behind his back. He stood still. It was as if he wanted to listen to the story that His Majesty was about to tell. His Majesty did not seem to notice the sarcasm in Mr. Chunyu's laughter. He was still as calm as a clear lake. A young friend once told me such a story. It was said that there was a dreamer who often dreamed that his dreams would come true one day. One day, he was drunk and was lying under a big tree in the courtyard. In a trance, two messengers from other countries came and invited him to a country called the Huai country to play. What he saw and heard was that the people there were far inferior to him. He had a sense of superiority. At that time, the Huai country was selecting officials. He signed up and found that it was not difficult at all. In the end, he passed 3 tests and ranked first on the roll. The king saw that he was outstanding and personally married the princess to him. This became a legend. He had a good life and married the princess. This person was extremely happy. I wonder what your Majesty's intention is in telling this story. Mr. Chunyu did not hear any problems. The middle-aged scholar frowned and thought. The story is not finished yet. His Majesty paused for a moment, then continued. This person was appointed as a lord. He was diligent and loved the people. He was honest and clean, and he was respected by the people. He also had several sons and daughters, and he had a successor. As you said just now, his life was full of joy and boundless happiness. If the story ends here, it is naturally not enough for the two of you to hear. However, there is still a part at the end. I wonder if the two of you would like to continue listening? Speak. I want to hear the ending. Mr. Chunyu laughed. I knew this story would have a twist. I just don't know how your Majesty will twist it. Ha ha ha. The middle-aged scholar didn't say anything. His eyes flickered as if he had understood something. His Majesty was not agitated by Mr. Chunyu's words and continued to narrate the story as calm as still water. Just as this person was living a happy life, the neighboring country of Tan Luo sent troops to attack Da Huai. In the battle, Da Huai was defeated and suffered several defeats. The enemy was so powerful that no one could defeat them. Mr. Chunyu roared with laughter. If that's the case, why don't we send that Lord Scholar to lead the army? His Majesty waited for him to finish laughing proudly before continuing. That's right. The whole country was at its wit's end. This man stepped forward bravely and led the elites of the country to fight against the enemy. It's a pity that he doesn't understand the art of war. Although he has a valiant spirit, he made the mistake of leading the army deeper. In the end, he suffered a great defeat on the whole front. He suffered heavy casualties and was utterly defeated. When Mr. Chunyu heard this, his laughter died down. The middle-aged scholar's brows relaxed, as if he had figured out why His Majesty said this. His Majesty paused for a moment before adding, "This man was defeated and fled home." He wanted to ask his wife to plead with the king, but who knew that she had already died of an acute illness? Helpless, he could only return to the capital to ask for forgiveness from the king. The king was furious and demoted him to a commoner, stripped of all his titles and official positions. He also took away all the children he had with the princess. In the end, the king sent him back to his hometown, never to be used again. When Mr. Chunyu heard this, he felt very uncomfortable. He wanted to retort. However, he didn't know what to say. The middle-aged scholar didn't say anything, but his expression showed that he had already expected this. Just as the two of them were embarrassed and speechless, His Majesty spoke again. This story is not over yet. It ended like this. This man was sent back to his hometown and felt ashamed. He screamed and woke up from his dream. He realized that everything was just a dream. Neither the beautiful nor the unfortunate happened. He searched carefully and found a nest of ants under the big locust tree in the courtyard. Cough, 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 cough. When Mr. Chunyu heard the ending of the story, he immediately coughed and his face turned red. Your Majesty's revelation is indeed thought-provoking. Fame, wealth, happiness, and happiness are indeed like fleeting clouds. They come and go in the blink of an eye. We are mediocre beings who want to excel and achieve great things. But in fact, we are just ants. Compared to the endless time and infinite space, compared to the omnipotent ancient gods, our struggles are just like a nest of ants. How ridiculous is this? Unfortunately, how many people in the world can see through things like Your Majesty? The middle-aged scholar was stunned at first, but then he laughed and clapped his hands in admiration. Temple Master Dongfang is known as the wisest person in the heaven realm. He has extraordinary wisdom. Why can't he understand it? His Majesty sighed slightly and asked softly, "Some people have no interest in ant nests, but some like to study them." The middle-aged scholar expressed that everyone had different personalities and hobbies. Ants don't bite people, so why are they so persistent? His Majesty asked again, "Although they don't bite people, the dream is too good. Maybe that person can't bear to part with his beautiful princess wife, the child in his dream, and everything that originally belonged to him." The middle-aged scholar laughed and answered casually, "All the beauty in the dream is just a dream in the end." Before His Majesty finished speaking, the white-haired Mr. Chunyu immediately objected. "I don't agree with Your Majesty's words. As the saying goes, what people think in the day is what they dream of. What people pursue is their dream. If they can achieve their dream, it will be the happiest and most glorious feat in life. As for disillusionment, it is caused by ability. If the person in the story has the ability to command 3 armies, how can he lose the battle? Even if he wakes up from the dream, if the person in the story has great talent and real knowledge, there will naturally be a place for him to use it in reality. The dream that Your Majesty just mentioned is just the lament of some losers. Don't you know that everything in the world depends on human effort? As long as you have the heart to do something, whether it is the ant nest or reality, dream or reality, there's a place for you to use your skills. This conclusion is my answer to Your Majesty's dream. What do you think, Your Majesty? I think it doesn't matter. What do you think, Temple Master Dongfang? His Majesty turned to ask the middle-aged scholar. There are all kinds of life in the world. Some people think that it is a dream. Some think that everything depends on human effort. There is nothing that cannot be done. The middle-aged scholar's answer was watertight. In that case, if this is a dream, how will the two of you deal with it? His Majesty's voice suddenly became cold. There was a cold and quiet feeling of ice and snow melting quietly. It made the middle-aged scholar called Temple Master Dongfang and the white-haired old man called Mr. Chun shiver. They knew that this Tian Luo palace, this mirage, it was not easy to enter. Even when the three great leaders of the Heaven Realm had attacked Tong Tian Tower in the past, only the prison emperor was able to hold them off. When the four of them were killing each other, Tong Tian Tower was like a defenseless castle. A group of Heaven Realm rankers were eyeing them like tigers watching their prey, waiting for the prison emperor to be defeated. Before that, no one dared to step into Tian Luo Palace. No one dared to step into this mirage. The middle-aged scholar thought for thousands of years and searched for thousands of years before he finally found Mr. Chunyu, who could break the dream. That was why he dared to step into this Tian Luo Palace for the first time. Forbidden Land. This was an absolutely terrifying forbidden land. Maybe even the rankers of Tong Tian Tower had forgotten about it. However, as the chief of the central shrine who hated Tong Tian Tower the most, the middle-aged scholar never forgot the existence of this Tian Luo Palace and this mirage. Tong Tian Tower, Demon Abyss, Heaven Stairway, and Soaring Dragon Continent all declined one after another. Ever since the Demon Abyss conquered the Queen's Seal, no one had risen for 10,000 years. Although there were many talents in Soaring Dragon Continent, the one that Heaven Realm feared the most was the Prison Emperor. If it wasn't for the Yu clan's third young master who rose at an unimaginable speed, the Soaring Dragon Continent would have fallen even more than the Demon Abyss. Only Heaven's Stairway, even if it started to decline tens of thousands of years ago, the Guardian still existed. This majesty who stayed in Tian Luo Palace all year round and slept in a mirage all year round. In the eyes of the rankers of the Central Shrine, he was the most dangerous person in Tong Tian Tower. As long as this person was here, it would be difficult to invade Tong Tian Tower. The middle-aged scholar spent thousands of years before he had the confidence to enter the Tian Luo Palace with Mr. Chunyu, who specialized in breaking dreams. Now, in the face of His Majesty's counterattack, did he really have 100% confidence to break through and win the battle? At this point, the middle-aged scholar really didn't have absolute confidence. Now, everything depended on Mr. Chunyu. He was the one who broke the dream. As long as Mr. Chun, you could break the dream, then conquering Tong Tian Tower would be easy. Other than His Majesty, the middle-aged scholar didn't really care about the rising star of Tong Tian Tower, the Yu clan's third young master, or Jizun. After all, these rising stars were too young, so young that it was almost negligible. Although the Yu clan's third young master and Jizun had some fame, the middle-aged scholar's plan had already included all changes. He didn't believe that anyone could jump out of his thousands of years of plan. Other than His Majesty, only this person's dream could have such a possibility. Your Majesty, in response to your question, Mr. Chunyu was vigilant in his heart, but he pretended to be relaxed and laughed. This old man's answer is, if this is a dream, this old man will turn it into reality. If this is a dream, this old man will break out of the dream and turn everything in the dream into reality. You are not me. How dare you boast shamelessly that you have the ability to change my dream? His Majesty sneered. In the dream, I am God. Mr. Chunyu's face was full of arrogance. He raised his hands towards the sky, and his whole body emitted rays of light. It was as if the sun had risen from the east, illuminating the whole world. His voice was like the echo of the ancient times, as if it was engraved on gold and stone. Word by word, it entered everyone's ears. I am God, the God of dreams. In the dream, I am omnipotent. Mr. Chunyu waved his hands towards the sky. The sky was clear for thousands of miles. Immediately, countless dark clouds gathered. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. It was raining cats and dogs. Mr. Chunyu pressed his hands down. When the raindrops fell on the ground, they turned into flames, burning everything that was flammable. When the white-haired old man raised his hands to his chest, the burning flames all turned into brilliant flowers. No matter whose dream world, I am God. I am the ruler. Under my will, everything belongs to me. There are no exceptions, and there is no transcendence. I am the God of dreams. My will is the will of all things. Whether it is those who obey me or those who intend to resist me, whether it is natural or man-made, whether it is living or dead, whether it is made of morality or any fluctuations in the world, whether it is conscious or not, as long as it exists in the world, in the dream, it belongs to me, it belongs to me, it belongs to me, it belongs to me, it belongs to me. Mr. Chun Yu's white-haired, youthful face was shining like a majestic god. Flowers bloom. He pointed at the flowers that were blooming on the ground. Those flowers all bloomed majestically. Flowers fall. With another point of his finger, those blooming flowers all withered and fell. Finally, with a light breeze, they turned into nothingness in the blink of an eye. Mr. Chun Yu looked up at the sky and summoned a meteor that could destroy heaven and earth. At the moment when the huge meteor was about to hit the Tian Luo Palace, he turned it into petals that fluttered in the air. They floated down without any lethality, causing the ground to be covered with petals that looked like blood. Finally, Mr. Chun Yu clenched his fists and nodded confidently at the middle-aged scholar. No matter whose dream this is, I am the God of dreams. Here, I can control time and space. I can create and destroy. I can achieve everything. No matter what this dream is, I can break out of it and turn it into reality. The middle-aged scholar nodded slightly. Thousands of years of hard work and preparation had finally paid off. Although it took a little longer, it was not unacceptable. The premature destruction of the Tower of Babel was indeed a cause for celebration. However, if they could prepare step by step and push it into an irreversible abyss, it would be a joyous thing. The middle-aged scholar was more at ease with the various aspects of breaking dreams. After all, Mr. Chun Yu had a talent that was best at breaking dreams. He had the ability to control all dreams. The middle-aged scholar had prepared for thousands of years to let Mr. Chun Yu reach his limit and win today's dream. Without thousands of years of preparation, he would never think that Mr. Chun Yu would be able to release any power and will in this Tian Luo Palace. Fortunately, thousands of years of time and patience had paid off. The only thing that the middle-aged scholar could not understand was why. Before this, would His Majesty leisurely tell him and Mr. Chun Yu a story about a dream? Your Majesty, what do you think? The middle-aged scholar was not happy. In fact, he would not be happy until his opponent completely admitted defeat. A good dream, comparable to the story just now. His Majesty commented on Mr. Chun Yu's words and actions of I am the God of dreams. What did you say? Mr. Chun Yu was angry. In the words of a certain brat, you are a lunatic. Talking to you is a waste of breath. I want to rest. Goodbye. His Majesty added coldly. I think I have made myself clear enough. Chapter 1223. Mr. Chun Yu was ashamed and angry. He roared angrily. He waited for him to calm down. He found himself standing at the entrance of Tian Luo Palace for some reason. It was as if he had not taken a single step, just like when he entered. The middle-aged scholar palace Master Dongfang also felt the same way. At this moment, the two of them looked at each other in dismay. No one understood what had happened. Didn't they just go in to see His Majesty in Tian Luo Palace? They had obviously entered the mirage and broken the dream. How did it become like this? The guards on duty at the entrance of Tian Luo Palace looked straight ahead at their posts, as if they did not see the people in front of them. The most vigilant and loyal General Qian Mu held his sword in his hand. He was also motionless. At this moment, a palace maid came out from inside. Mr. Chun Yu and Palace Master Dongfang recognized this girl. She was the courteous and praiseworthy dining maid that they had met in front of His Majesty's palace. This little maid walked lightly like a lotus and arrived in front of Mr. Chun Yu and Palace Master Dongfang. She bowed slightly and said in a clear voice, Honored guests, His Majesty invites you in. Didn't they already talk to each other just now? They clearly told a story to ridicule His Majesty. How did it become like this? Could it be that everything before was just a dream? Palace Master Dongfang's heart moved slightly. Before the little maid left, he asked, "May I ask if you serve His Majesty's meal?" The little servant girl smiled, but didn't answer directly. She stopped and turned around to salute Palace Lord Dongfang before leaving with light and quick steps. When the two of them saw her figure disappear, they turned around and looked at each other. They were shocked to find that they were standing in front of His Majesty's main hall. A little maid walked out briskly from inside. It was the little maid who served the meals. She saw Palace Master Dongfang and Mr. Chunyu. She seemed to be surprised, but her expression quickly returned to normal. She bowed slightly and continued to serve the meal. Mr. Chunyu and Palace Master Dongfang felt as if they were in a dream. They could not understand what was going on. Didn't it happen just now? Could it be? The two of them suddenly heard a sound behind them and immediately turned around. The expressions of the duo, who had remained calm even in the face of a landslide, couldn't help but change. The reason was that the other Mr. Chunyu and the other Palace Master Dongfang were standing there and commenting as if there was no one else around. Mr. Chunyu, after seeing this scene, I really feel that the maids in the family should learn and improve. What is upbringing? What was bearing? What is etiquette? What is spirituality? This was it. I think, in this world, only here can there be such an intelligent beauty. Did the two of you come all the way here just to discuss my maidservant? His Majesty's voice and reproach sounded again. Of course, I'm not here just for this. I'm also a dreamer. I've traveled thousands of miles to discuss with your Majesty about the dreams that ordinary people are confused about. Please enlighten me, your Majesty. This was what the other Mr. Chunyu said. From an outsider's point of view, Mr. Chun, you could see everything clearly. While he was saying these words, Yi Zichen was stunned. There was an unconcealable smugness and provocation on his face. This discovery shocked Mr. Chunyu because he had never realized that his attitude was so arrogant. His eyes were so arrogant and haughty. If it wasn't for what had happened before, he might not have felt that it was too much. But now, apart from the cold sweat on his forehead, he was completely speechless. That's right, he was speechless toward himself. In front of His Majesty, his arrogance and haughtiness were exposed too early. Following that, everything that had happened, the story, the conversation, the shocking words of the God of Dreams, the suppression of the entire audience, the manipulation of time, the blooming and withering of flowers, the summoning of meteors, the profusion of fallen petals. Mr. Chunyu realized that he had missed all the flaws that he should and shouldn't have missed. That kind of showy display of power now looked utterly stupid. Even someone as thick-skinned as Mr. Chunyu, at this moment, was so embarrassed that his face turned red. He was too ashamed to show his face and wished that he could find a hole to hide in. Your Majesty, what do you think? Palace Master Dongfang saw his other self asking His Majesty. A good dream, comparable to the story just now. His Majesty replied in the same way as before, but this time, the sarcasm in his voice seemed to be stronger. What did you say? Mr. Chunyu saw his other self getting angry. He clearly saw how embarrassed he was when he was angry. Embarrassed and afraid. He wanted to leave immediately and never step into Tianluo Imperial Palace again. In the words of a certain brat, you're a lunatic. It's a waste of time talking to you. I'm going to rest. I won't send you off. His Majesty spoke in the same way as before. This time, before His Majesty could finish his sentence, Mr. Chunyu ran out of Tianluo Imperial Palace as fast as he could. He felt that he was really a lunatic. Of all places in the world, he had to come to Tianluo Imperial Palace. He knew that His Majesty was the best at dreams in the world, but he still overestimated himself and tried to break the dream. If the shame he felt just now was like waking up under the big locust tree and finding an ant nest, then he felt that he was a lunatic. But now, he felt that he was an ant in an ant nest. He dreamed of the absurdity of someone else's dream. When he woke up from his dream, he was not even a human, but a small ant that had entered someone else's dream. He didn't know how many thousands of miles he had fled. It was only when Palace Master Dongfang repeatedly called out to him and comforted him not to be discouraged that Mr. Chunyu stopped. He painfully closed his eyes. As long as he opened his eyes, it was as if he could see his arrogant self standing in front of the main hall of the Tianluo Imperial Palace, proudly raising his hands up high and loudly proclaiming, "I am God. I am the God of dreams. I am omnipotent." Not to mention the God of dreams, he could not even be considered a human. In front of his majesty, he, who had cultivated for thousands of years and thought that he was omnipotent, was just a small ant that had barged into someone else's dream. Yet, he overestimated himself, made threatening gestures, and even claimed to be a god. Mr. Chunyu looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. 2 streams of tears rolled down his cheeks. Until today, he saw himself clearly for the first time. It turned out that he had always been living in a dream. He had never seen himself clearly, and he had never seen the world clearly. Mr. Chunyu, this battle was not a result of strength. It's normal to fail. I had expected it. Palace Master Dongfang comforted him. If that person was so easy to deal with, then many people hiding in the dark would have taken action long ago. Not only us, even that person in the hall might not be able to break the dream. Everyone knows that the only safe entrance to the core of God's ruins is under the mirage. But who can pass through it safely? I can't accept this. I really can't accept this. Thousands of years of effort is actually as insignificant as an ant. Mr. Chun, you clenched his fists in pain. It's not easy to break the dream. Although we didn't succeed this time, it was a good attempt. At least we managed to escape unscathed, right? No matter how big the heaven realm is, how many people can escape and scathe from the mirage? Palace Master Dongfang comforted him patiently. Mr. Chun, you was defeated and failed to break the dream. He was already mentally prepared. It didn't matter if he failed once. What was important was that Mr. Chun, you had the talent to break the dream. If he could continue to improve, he would definitely succeed in breaking the dream one day. Or really, the knot in Mr. Chun Yu's heart was slightly relieved. He opened his eyes and tried to find more comfort. But when he looked, he cried out involuntarily, because he realized. He didn't know when he had returned to the entrance of the Tianluo Palace. The guards in front of the door were still standing straight like spears, looking straight ahead. Inside, a little maid walked out with light steps and greeted politely. Her voice was like a clear bell. "Honored guest, His Majesty invites you in." This time, even Palace Master Dongfang frowned. Unlike Mr. Chunyu, who was trembling in fear, he took a deep breath and prepared to ask the previous question. "May I ask if you have served His Majesty his meal?" The young maid didn't wait for him to ask. She stopped, turned around, and bowed. "I have served His Majesty his meal." Palace Master Dongfang's eyes stung as if he had been pecked by an eagle, but he immediately returned the greeting. He regained his scholarly demeanor. When he looked again, Mr. Chunyu was trembling all over. Palace Master Dongfang's eyes turned to pity, and he shook his head slightly. The scene changed again. Once again, they returned to the front of the main hall. Inside, the young maid who was serving the meal came out. Mr. Chun, he was waving his arms and legs as if trying to break free from something. Then he howled crazily. His voice was filled with shock and fear. However, none of this could stop the scene from being reconstructed. The conversation, the telling of the story, the questioning, the proclamation of God, the demonstration, all of this was repeated. Mr. Chun Yu knelt on the ground in fear. He looked at everything as if he was suffocating. His eyes bulged out like a prisoner strangled to death. On the contrary, Palace Master Dongfang was calmly watching the scene unfold before him. After His Majesty said farewell, he even bowed towards the main hall. "Please come out, peerless Emperor Wushuang. Dongfang Zhan, you will have a talk with His Majesty." In the main hall, there seemed to be a faint sigh, but it also sounded like the sound of the wind. It was as if nothing had happened. Palace Master Dongfang pondered for a while and recalled. He seemed to have heard such a sigh when His Majesty said, "I think I've made myself clear enough." During the first scene, could it be that His Majesty knew that he would say peerless Emperor Wushuang's name at that time? Palace Master Dongfang once again appeared in front of Tian Luo Palace with this doubt in his heart. Mr. Chunyu screamed like a madman and soared into the sky like a meteor. Palace Master Dongfang shook his head slightly. He bowed slightly toward the main hall and took 1 step, 2 steps. Then he strode towards the square outside. At this moment, Mr. Chunyu, who had turned into a meteor and disappeared, reappeared at the palace gate. He fell to the ground in fear and waved at the young maid who walked out of the palace gate and screamed, Don't come over, I beg you. Don't come over, let me go, let me go. I will never dare to come to Tongtian Tower again. I will never come back, I beg you. Let me go. Palace Master Dongfang shook his head lightly. Thousands of years of effort, in exchange for this madman who was so terrified that even his will had collapsed, as expected of the existence that was chosen to guard the gods' ruins. Interesting. Palace Master Dongfang clasped his hands behind his back and walked out confidently. His footsteps did not stop as he muttered to himself, "It is because of this that this Tongtian Tower needs to be destroyed. It is also because of this that it is more meaningful to destroy everything here." Palace Master Dongfang stood on the street and looked at the bustling city. He was full of smiles. Then he said, "Dreams are like life. Life is like a dream. But why was I not allowed to have dreams in the beginning? Since I don't have dreams, then I will destroy all dreams. This way it will be fair." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.